Hello, gamers from around the world. This is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and today we have something super special here on the channel. Well, not only is it my camera debut, which I'm actually kind of nervous about, but it's also a live show here on my channel. And usually I don't do live shows, but at the end of last year, at the end of 2020, we had a show here on my channel where we talked about the biggest news of that year. And the feedback from you guys, the community, was so awesome that I had to do one again. And I couldn't do that without some amazing guests. And I want to say a big thank you to you guys for taking out the time out of your busy schedule and join me here today for the show. We're going to have a lot of fun. And before I explain what we want to do here today, I want to introduce my guests here today. First of all, I want to introduce Ainsley Bowden, the man with the most legendary gaming basement out there. I think that is already well known in the community. For those of you who don't know him, he's the founder and CEO of Season Gaming. That's a video game news site that is non-monetized. So no ads, no sponsored articles, no bullshit. And therefore, I couldn't recommend it more. He's also the host of the Season Gaming Bitcast and the Cast Co-op podcast. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for being here today, my friend.
No, thank you very much, man. A great group of guys. I'm excited to be here. We're talking games. It's been a great year for games, man. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And don't be nervous, man. Don't be nervous. Nothing to be nervous about.
Yeah, well, thank you. I try to. We will get you. I get used to that. Okay, then we have another man. I don't think he needs an introduction. Mr. Boomstick XL. He's the hardest working podcaster out there. He produces 3 live shows each and every week on his Double Barrel Gaming YouTube channel. He puts out weekly commentary videos. He's one of the most passionate and positive gamers out there. And he's actually the man who introduced myself to podcasting. That has been 2.5 years ago, Boom, since I've been on for the first time on a podcast with you. So I want to say thank you for taking the time here today, my friend.
Oh, my pleasure. The one thing you forgot about Ains is that he comes off as this mild-mannered gentleman, and he's just an assassin. He is an assassin. He is just sitting there. He's got his energy sword sitting right behind him. That's letting. He's poking at the people, folks. He's letting you know that you do not want to play against him. I will.
No, you don't want to play against him.
Yes, play against him.
Confirm.
Nay, no. I love
still
Ains.
recovering from that tournament last year. I was like, it is still burning in the back of my brain.
His team is basically what you're
insane.
looking at is Master Chief out of the uniform because he's a little pale, and his blue team is just, they are who they are. But no, it's a pleasure to be back. That you considered to bring me back for your game, year 2021 ending conversation. I
wouldn't be the same without you.
I appreciate that very much. The kind words. We just got done with the Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick. We gave away over $700 worth of prizes. All you had to do was be in the chat, and it was great. It was a lot of fun, and it's great to be with all these gentlemen. Obviously, I don't work enough with Ains. I work with Mav on a weekly, Dutch as well, you as well. This is great. I'm proud to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for being here too. Well, and then we have Wandering Dutch. He's not only famous for his Midweek Mix-Up podcast, but he also leads the Midweek Mix-Up Collective, a collective that helps smaller content creators to get started, to build out their community on YouTube, Twitch, etc. He's also very passionate about charity streams. He's got a big one coming up tomorrow, 24 hours straight. So already applauding for that, but I think we will talk about that a little later. And he's also known in the community for making custom consoles and controllers. His custom Hellblade 2 and Fable consoles even made headlines with some of the bigger outlets out there. So thanks for being here today, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Of course, like you say, we did this last year, and I'm privileged to come back again this year. It's been awesome to work with you all year long.
Thank you.
Of course,
likewise.
Seeing you on Boom Show, which then I had the privilege of joining one of his others. So awesome stuff, bro. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm really excited for today. And but in no way least, we have Mav from Fun Speculation. I don't know if he needs an introduction, but he gets one anyway, because he has built with his wife, Caitlin, an incredible gaming channel with multiple podcasts, live streams, etc. He's also super active on Twitter in the gaming community and one hell of a passionate, positive gamer out there. So I wouldn't do the show without him, and I'm honored that he took the time out of his busy schedule here today. Welcome, Mav.
Well, kind words, Archimedes, coming from you. And I honestly, I was honored to get that message inviting me to be here with this group. I mean, look at this, man. It's like, this is like an esteemed honor, to go here and talk about this last year of gaming, what a year it was. So I'm excited and pumped about it, to talk about it with all these amazing creators. So thank you for having me.
No, thanks for being here. All right. And I already want to say a big thank you to everyone who joined us in chat. I see a lot of people out there, and I want to just briefly mention already the first 2 super chats. The first came before the show even started. Outrage Podcast says, what a great panel. Happy holidays, everyone. And thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate it. And then we have one coming from Jay. He just puts out, thank you, smiley. I want to say thank you to you. And yeah, let's get this show on the road. What are we doing here today? We will talk, of course, about 2021. We will start in January, and then we go from month to month, talking about the biggest games that came out. Obviously, there were more than 2,700 games released this year. We won't get to each of them, so I had to make a decision which ones we're going to talk about. So the biggest games, if I miss a game, please let me know either in the chat or here the panel. And we talk about the biggest news items that happened over the course of this year. And yeah, for that, I think we switch to watching some gameplay in parallel, make us a little smaller. Hang on one second, guys. I'm not so fast like these professional podcasters here, so yeah, we need to change the overlay. Let's get some gameplay rolling, and let's start in January. In January, we had actually only one bigger release games-wise, and that was The Medium on January 29th. And Boom, I want to go to you with that first, because I know you loved the game, you enjoyed it. And I want to hear your thoughts, not just on the game, but also of its importance, because it was the only exclusive game in the first 8 months that the Xbox Series consoles were out for the Xbox. So yeah, let's talk about a little bit about The Medium. What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, listen, Bloober Team, they know how to tell scary stories. We've seen it on numerous productions before, and this was no less than their best work. Game looked incredible. It ran incredible. It did something unlike we've seen them doing ever, and that was the split screen use of the characters, which was pretty it was pretty impressive considering it did put the Series X through its paces. And it's a game, unfortunately, that released so early in the year that a lot of people, when we're going and we're doing our lists for games that matter to us, as you know, a lot of people, we all do these top 10 lists. I have a strange suspicion that we are going to see a lot of people like, I forgot that game even came out. And it is. I'm going to be
typical January release problem. I think a lot of people forget that game by the end of the year.
And sadly, I did not finish it. I'm literally at the end. I think I have an hour to go. I got inundated with work, got inundated with just playing games. But it is going to be in my top games list for the year. I quite enjoyed it. They are a studio that I think are extremely talented, and one that I believe would be perfect for Xbox Game Studios. But again, we're not here to talk about acquisitions. We're here to talk about that game. If you missed out on it, you like survival horror-esque types of titles, you should definitely give it a try.
Yeah, Boom, I would say definitely go back and finish it off, because that ending is a great ending.
Is worth it. Yeah, agreed. What does the rest of the panel think? Thumbs up, thumbs down, really quick?
Massive thumbs up from me. Massive thumbs up. I loved it.
All right. All right. Love it.
Quarters. It was all right. It's cool.
3/4. Okay. Let's talk about some news from January, because as light as it was with games releases in January, we actually had some major news items. And the first bigger news of the year happened on January 12th. Does anyone have any idea what it might have been? What was the first bigger news item? I see Ainsley is already Googling.
I was about to cheat and go into my archives real quick.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have remembered it either. But that day we got the announcement of the Indiana Jones game from Machine Games.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, I remember that, but not that specific day.
Yeah. Then only one day later, we got the announcement that Lucasfilm is not handing out the Star Wars license anymore to EA. So starting in 2023, we will get Star Wars games that are not exclusive from EA anymore. We already know about the Ubisoft open world game in the Star Wars universe. We know about the Quantic Dream game, Star Wars Eclipse. So that was announced that day. And the same day, we had another announcement, and we got that announcement quite often over the course of this year. And so I want to get it out of the way in January. Hogwarts Legacy and Gotham Knights got delayed to 2022. We also got in January the delay of Cyberpunk, the next gen version of it, to the end of 2021. Well, we know that it's now 2022. Returnal got delayed. Gran Turismo got delayed in February then. Ratchet and Clank got pushed back. Horizon Forbidden West and God of War got pushed back. Dying Light 2, Elden Ring, and a little later this year, of course, Diablo 4, Overwatch, and many, many others. So I want to use this first big delay as a kind of a talking point with you, Ainsley. Delays. We have seen them over the course of the year, and I always appreciate your thoughts on the industry because you not just look at it from gamer's perspective, but also from the business side and the industry side of things. Game delays. Were there too many? Did it hurt the gaming experiences in 2021? Are they a good thing? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny because when you and I have talked off camera before, we're both in similar lines of work and, have had to move to work at home, and we know what that experience is like. And I think working with developers and stuff, I think that the work from home aspect of it, as we all have learned by now, right, really impacts gaming because it's a very collaborative design process. And so it's really no surprise as we got further and further into this pandemic that we started to see all sorts of delays across the industry. And it's not the end, right? This is still continuing to happen. So I didn't find it too surprising. It's funny to say we could easily say that it had a negative impact on gaming if you just look at all the big titles we didn't get to play this year. But as we're going to talk about more, right, this year ended up being one of the best years for gaming ever, in my opinion. So it's almost like, and I say this all the time, the gaming industry now has ballooned to the point of there are so many developers and so many publishers making so many great games, and with indie games quality continuing to rise as well. It just makes there's so much that's always in the works that even when we get these big name delays, there's still so many other games to play, right? Yeah. So I just think that sure, it had an impact. Do I want to be playing Elden Ring right now? Damn right. I'd love to be playing it, but at the same time, I think we all know what a major release that isn't up to the quality we had hoped does to us, right? That really saddens us. So I'm not one of those guys that really cares about delays. I'd much rather, because there's so much to play, let the game delay, let the developer take as long as they need, and the game will be good when it releases. I mean, everyone knows I'm a big Halo guy, and Halo was delayed by a year, right? Which when it happened, we were all kind of disappointed, but at the same time, look how it turned out. It did wonders for that game, and that's pretty much true of any major game. So yeah, I think it's only a good thing, honestly. We'll get better games in the end. There's still plenty to play. And regardless of all those delays, it was still an amazing year for games.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I always think of this famous Miyamoto quote, that a delayed game will be eventually good, but a rushed out game will be forever bad. And I think I'd rather wait and get totally crushed with games in 2022 because 2022 is now getting insanely packed.
Yes.
But you're absolutely right. Anyone else want to say something about the delays before we move on? You guys good? All
yeah,
right.
no, I'll just say that
Oh.
I agree 100% with Ains as well. Like, we have so much stuff to play.
Yeah.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Too much
not like-
almost, right?
Yeah, too much. Yeah.
I can understand, like, okay, there's the only this is the only game coming out this year, and oh my gosh, it got delayed. You know, that's why kind of Halo Infinite had a huge impact on the end of last year, just because of the fact that that was supposed to be the big launch title and all these things. But even in the end, in that case, it worked out for the better, right? So if that game works out for the better, then you know when these people send like hateful messages to developers and all this stuff because of delaying their game. You got to realize these are people that work for companies that are working hard to try and get this stuff done. They're under deadlines, they're under a lot of pressure, and adding pressure to that does not actually help the games get good, right?
Yeah.
So eventually they're going to come out when they're ready and they feel enough pressure already from the publishers and platform holders and all this stuff. So when they come out, the best case scenario is if they are as good as possible. And as far as Halo's case, it worked out fantastically. So it doesn't upset me when these games get delayed because, man, this next few years is going to be absolutely insane.
I agree 100%. 100%. Okay, thanks, guys. Before we move on to the next big news item, I want to briefly mention 2 super chats. First, I want to say thanks to Smitty Smith. He says, brother, I told you I wouldn't miss this. Shout out to all my gaming brothers and sisters out there. Salute to you, Smitty. Also, thanks for being a channel member for I think now 7 months. That's really awesome. And then we have Hertog Win saying the most sexy German ever. I love you, Brody. Thank you too. I love you too. All right, guys. We are still in January, actually, because something else happened in January. And that is something I would like to discuss with Mav. Because, Mav, you're a big community guy. And on January 24th, we have seen the Xbox community very active out there on social media. Because that day, Microsoft announced that they want to double the price of Xbox Live Gold. And the outcry was huge. 2 days later, they retracted that statement. And they even made free-to-play games now actually free-to-play. You don't have to have a gold subscription anymore to play free-to-play games on Xbox. And I think that was a big moment for the Xbox community because they were really loud on social media, and it just has shown how Microsoft is actually listening to the community. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. Was it a good thing? Do you think it was a planned marketing move? Because they got a lot of positive mind share after the backtracking. So what are your thoughts?
I don't think it was a planned marketing move as much as I think it was a not well thought out where you have 2 different divisions kind of trying to make plans, right?
Yeah.
Where you have the services side that's with Game Pass and everything. They're really pushing this consumer friendly aspects, and then you got these money guys, right? They're like, hey, we need to do this stuff, and we got to start phasing these things out, and let's work on this, it just kind of came to a clash at that moment because we're so used to getting all this positive stuff and all this great news, and then all of a sudden this weird thing, because we at the time, you remember when this happened, we were all talking about Xbox Live pricing going away, period. Gold phasing out, right? That's what we were all expecting. That's what we were all thinking. And then they come with a reverse philosophy of, hey, instead of phasing it out, guys, this is what we're actually doing. We're just not going to give you the discount for buying 12 months anymore. You're going to pay double. And at that time, it was like, what? Who's this Xbox? Is this I don't like this. It's like a shift into the old Microsoft for a little period of time, right? And it was kind of weird. So yeah, we freaked out. Now there was some people out there that are just apologists, and that will also take everything oh, it's okay, it's not a big deal. Hey, I don't mind paying more. Much like when the $60 games turn into 70. That's a whole nother discussion, right? But there's a lot of that was hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. We're gonna pay what we pay. Blah 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 blah. but enough people spoke up and made enough noise that day. It was crazy because our topic, this happened live on our show. We were doing Xbox Ultimate Podcast.
Oh,
This was our
really?
topic. We were talking about it for like an hour and a
Breaking news.
half. And then live on the show, Pong broke the news that they reversed the decision. So it
That's
was
cool.
amazing. We had a celebration like on the show live for a pod. It's actually one of the like great memories from this year actually happening on our show as well. So I'm actually glad you came to me for this, because it did show that, hey, we're listening and they are going to continue listening, and change the way they're approaching things to make sure that they keep the momentum that they have, right?
Yeah,
because they can't lose this
I
momentum.
I agree, and I think it was also a moment that showed how important it is that we as a community actually speak up if we don't agree with certain moves that are happening in the industry. Yeah, we've seen the NFT discussion over the last days, and today Stalker 2 made also step back. It's always important to give feedback as the community, and I'm always happy to see when these companies then actually listen to that. Anyone else want to add something to that? Thank you.
Well, no,
Mav.
I agree with Mav on this, and I have to jump in here because this is one of those moves that I said when it happened was a bit of a head scratcher. It was the one time during the entire 21 campaign, and Microsoft had an incredible, like when we sit back and we look at the year they had as a company, as being part of the big three, it was the best in the business. This is the only, I guess, bad check mark, if you will, that they had, and this was clearly the left hand was not didn't know what the right hand was doing. It doesn't happen. This move was this was old Microsoft. This was old Xbox. That's why it was shocking when it happened. But I'm very happy to say that they did rectify this very, very quickly.
Yeah, nothing to add. 100% spot on. Anyone else want to say something before we move to February? Yeah,
I think those guys nailed it.
They nailed it. I agree. Okay, let's talk about February. What games came out? Destruction All-Stars, Little Nightmares 2, and Super Mario 3D World. Anyone wants to say something about those? Because I have another game that I actually want to talk about. So just real quick.
Nightmares, Little Nightmares 2 is an absolutely awesome game.
Brilliant.
Is it? I haven't played it yet.
Brilliant.
Oh yeah, awesome game. But again, that series as a whole, Little Nightmares 1 and then Little Nightmares 2, just took everything that was great with the first and cemented why it was such a great game.
Agreed.
So yeah,
that like I have to put it on my Christmas playlist.
Yes, 100%. As long as you can deal with like really creepy games, you're all right.
Okay.
Yeah, Little Nightmares 2 is one of my favorite games of the year. It's that good. So Destruction All-Stars, not so much.
No, I haven't played that either.
You didn't miss much.
Okay. Okay. Now, what I actually want to talk about, and I want to go to you, Dutch, because, you like to play games with the community. And the game I want to talk about, or it's not just the game, but more what happened with it, is the next-gen update for The Division 2. And the reason why I want to bring that up is we have seen it over the course of this year many times that games, last-gen games, got a next-gen patch that added frame rates, better graphics, whatever, to the game, and suddenly the entire community started to playing the games again. The Division 2 is a perfect example for that. When that next-gen patch came out, my friends list had like 80-90% of the people playing it. I was online for days with other people. Obviously, some of the midweek mix-up crew I played the Division 2 with. I also played it with Semi Boom many times. And so, we have seen that games can get kind of a second launch with those next-gen patches. And we've seen it with other games as well, but I want to take it here in February as a talking point. What are your thoughts about these next-gen patches? Of course, also on the Division, but are these next gen patches actually the chance for a second launch? Because I checked the engagement with the Division, according to Google, was bigger after the next gen release patch than when the game actually came out. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I completely agree. It is like a second wind. I think at the same time as well, there was I think the Warlords of New York released as an expansion, but it also released really cheap. I think it was on sale
actually
like
out.
immediately.
That was out for a while, but everyone bought it with the next gen patch and then started playing it.
Was it not like on sale, like really? Like
yes, it was on
cheap?
sale. Exactly, it was on sale.
So
That's when I
everybody
bought it.
at the same time as then downloading the Division 2 again and playing it, because of course it ran at the silky smooth 60 frames and obviously had a lovely resolution boost and things like that. And it just overall the quality of the game was drastically improved in terms of both playability and in terms of how it was presented. But also then there was that chance for them to sell on that expansion. And it was marked really cheap. I think it was something like £7-8 or something on sale. And it added a substantial amount of kind of additional content to the game as well. But you're right, it did, and of course throughout the year, of course, no doubt we'll get to it. But there's been a few games that have had significant boosts through additional content updates by Series X enhanced patches. Of course, we know PlayStation, another topic, have done that on several games this year.
Happened there as well, exactly.
That have boosted them up. But overall, I think the Division, it was that specifically that title. I remember looking at the friends list throughout, I think that was the week when it was launched. And it had a significant boost of player base. Everybody on the friends list, and I think everybody else's friends list was exactly the same, was just everybody playing the Division again. Which was insane. And I think everybody was just like, yeah, let's get into it, let's have some fun. And it was just everyone having fun on the Division again. It was really great to see. And I think the mobile, specifically this year, maybe the front end of next 2023. I'm already thinking of 22 already. But the front end of 23, I think we'll see a couple of more titles still get those next gen enhancements. And then we'll just see specific next gen games only, and then previous games won't get any kind of previous patches. But I think we'll see quite a few games over the course of 22 and 23 get those player boosts to their older titles as well.
We shall see what Cyberpunk will do. I think that's a big one everyone is waiting for.
It is, and you know what it is. I'm looking forward to it actually coming out and hopefully doing well, because I was one of the very few people, by the looks of things, and I know there's probably a couple more, very few people that managed to get through the entirety of Cyberpunk with next to zero issues.
I'm one of them.
And loved it. And I want everybody to have the same experience that I did without the issues and play that game for what it is and not what you can see, which is the quality issues, the problems, the stuttering, the game breaking bugs, the bugs. Underneath those issues, there is a really great game there. And I hope, for the developers' sake, not for the suits at the top, but for the sake of the developers, that people can get a chance to play that game again. But same applies to a lot of these games that might have faltered without these next-gen enhancements. I want the developers per se to get that boost to make them feel proud of what they've worked on, because I couldn't imagine being a developer where a game's come out and it's a great game, but no one can see it because there's serious flaws.
Agree. Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. Next gen patches. Anyone else wants to add something?
I'll just say on the Division, just completely agree with what Dutch said. I was a huge Division player. I love like the looty grind of those games, and that next gen patch was something else, man. I mean, it was like a completely different game.
Yeah, it changed the way it felt completely.
Yeah, I mean, I already had a couple hundred hours into it, and when that came out, I dove right back in with everyone else and played the expansion and everything. And though, we often, I think many of us give Ubisoft a lot of flack for many different reasons, and you kind of see that in the community a lot. But one thing I've said before is that One thing they did do well, right, is they're one of the few publishers that updated all of their games for the new consoles
And for free.
For free,
Yeah, for
exactly.
For free, yeah.
So, and they're notable updates, right? They're not these little minor patches. Like, I mean, Valhalla and Division 2 and Phoenix and, you know, all their
Phoenix.
games.
Yeah, Watch
Far Cry
Dogs.
6 came out. Watch Dogs, perfect example. They all play just extremely well on the new console. So I think we do have to at least applaud that. On Cyberpunk, I'll just say, you know, I'm one of the few who I reviewed it, 140 plus hours in that game. It was my game of the year of 2020. And like Dutch said, there is a truly fantastic game buried among both the bugs and the narrative that developed around that game. So I'm really hopeful for CDPR that, you know, when the next gen patch comes out, they get some more patches. They confirm the expansion is still coming. I hope that next year is kind of a revival for that game because it does deserve it at the end of the day.
And it's one of the games I didn't experience, Ains. I have it right there. I'm waiting for the next gen pack. So when that finally comes out, I'm going to be able to sit and experience one because my brother beat it. I think he's got every ending in the game. Like he put hundreds of hours into it, loved it. And as much as it looks amazing, I can't wait to experience it when that next gen patch launches next year.
Yeah, Boom. I'm kind of with you too because like Cyberpunk, I was crazy excited for, and I was enjoying it. I really wasn't having that many issues, but when I knew that they were giving the next gen patch for free, and then I thought it was still coming like late 2021, I was like, I'm not the type that's going to play a big, massive game like this usually twice all the way through. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put it on the side burner, even though I'm enjoying it, because I want to experience it the best way possible. So it's still sitting there. I'm just waiting for that, but I'll get to it when I get to it. It's a single player game, so it's no really problem with waiting on something like that. You know?
Yeah. The funny thing is, it's coming first quarter, and I think, like many of you, right? we want to revisit. Either like people like me want to revisit it, or people like yourself want to get to it, and it's going to come probably sometime around all these other gigantic games that are coming. So it's going to be interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I was so hoping that they announce it for January because in January we have basically nothing, and then starting February we are getting crushed with game releases. So
some of those will get pushed back.
All right. Before we move to March, or hang on one second, did I forget something in February? No. Oh yeah, we have to still talk about something in February. But I want to mention something. A super sticker came in from Master Pain 83. Actually, I know that guy. We know each other since we were 10 years old. So shout out to you, my friend.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Master
Went to
Pain.
school together. We went through a lot. Then I want to say a big thank you to Mock Student, who just became a channel member. Thank you so much for the outstanding support, and the same goes to Vincenzo Mario Saltamartini. I hope I didn't.
Look at that name. That's amazing.
Oh, man.
That's an awesome name.
He needs to be an Assassin's Creed character.
No doubt.
That's a very powerful name. I love it.
That is.
Yeah,
absolutely, it is. Thank you guys so much for the support. The channel members will get early access to all my videos, typically 24 hours early, and they have custom-made badges and emojis. So thank you guys for the outstanding support. Let's talk about the news of February. We didn't get to the news. What happened there? February 1st, Google shut down all internal studios, and from now on out, they rely solely on third-party development for their Stadia service. EA acquired Codemasters for $1.2 billion. That happened also in February. But the one thing I want to talk about with Ainsley is FPS boost got announced for backwards compatible games on the Xbox. And everyone knows, hopefully, how much I love backwards compatibility. I think games are just like movies and music, and they hold so much nostalgia with it. I regularly go back and play some of my older favorite games. One of my all-time favorites is a Super Nintendo game called Secret of Evermore. I play through that game once a year. I love it. And what Microsoft is doing with their backwards compatibility program, is just outstanding. I mean, they added auto HDR already. We have the 16 times anisotropic filtering, the frame, the resolution boost things, and now we got the FPS boost, the frame rate boost. Ainsley, I want to hear your thoughts on what is Microsoft doing for game preservation, because I think that is the big thing that we need to take away here, is that they actually care more than anyone else in the console business right now for game preservation and what it means for us gamers and the industry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us will have the same or similar thoughts on this, right? Because we talk about it pretty frequently. Is that they're crushing it in this sense. Their engineering teams are, I've called them wizards many times. I mean, the stuff they're pulling off with these games is not easy in any sense of the word. It's also what I like to stress to people is this is a significant investment. You're talking about teams of people who are extremely talented at their craft. And those type of people are not cheap people to employ. This is a lot of money that is being spent by Xbox when, in reality, this is obviously is not bringing in the same revenue as brand new releases or free to play games or anything like that. So it's really something to be applauded, in my opinion, that they are taking this approach with their back catalog. And even in a lot of cases, which I think is most impressive, right, is they're improving third-party games without the third-party company even being involved. And I think that's just absolutely incredible. And I know all of us here have talked about this extensively, like I said, so I could rant about this for a few minutes because I find it just so impressive, but I do love it. And, funny enough, I went back and played one of my favorite games of the generation again, Prey from Arcane. And it's like a completely different game. I mean, it literally runs better than my PC now on Series X, night and day. Yeah. And I reinstalled Dead Space 2 recently to hopefully play that again too, since that got the recent announcement. And it's just incredible technology. And I think that as we all have, like I said, I think we should just continue to kind of shout from the rooftops and applaud Xbox and the teams there for this, because it deserves it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. 100%. Anyone else wants to add something?
Yeah, you know what? I'd like to add to what Ain said, and specifically shout out Microsoft for doing something that both Sony and Nintendo are charging you for. Nintendo is the bit. Now, listen, I'm a Nintendo guy. Like I got my first Nintendo when I was 15, and I don't want to say I'm an apologist because I'll call them out on it. But we talked about Mario 3D World. Like I still own the disc, right, for the Wii U, but I could not use that on the Switch, and I have no credit of it. But if this was Microsoft, there'd be a way for me to play this updated version for the price of nothing. And Microsoft doesn't get enough credit for, like Ain said, having these very talented people away from what potentially could be a new IP they're working on, and they're not. They're working on game preservation. It's super important to Phil Spencer and everyone at Microsoft, and they don't just talk about it; they actually do it. So yeah, I think they do not get enough credit. I think they get enough credit from us. I don't necessarily think you see too many media sites kind of writing original articles to say, why isn't Sony and Nintendo following suit?
Yeah. I agree. It's really, when you could look at the console space, they are so far ahead when it comes to game preservation. I mean, we can play games from 3 generations now on 3 previous generations on one console, and all look and run better. It's simply amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else wants to add something, or do we move on to March?
These months are going to get bigger and bigger as we go, aren't they?
Actually, there will be a few lighter ones. So, okay, let's talk about March. The biggest games were the Marvel's Avengers update, then Balan Wonderworld came out, and It Takes Two. And I think we will talk about It Takes Two a bit later when we talk about the Game of the Year discussion. did anyone play it? I know, Mav, you played it and loved it.
I've played it.
It Takes Two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
literally
started
playing
it.
for the first time tomorrow.
Oh, nice, man. All
on,
right.
on your charity stream.
Yeah,
Yes.
That is cool. That is
Who are you
very
playing
cool.
it with? Who you playing with?
playing it with General C.
Okay,
Always
that's a good
cool.
partner.
Cool.
Yeah, and
Cool.
that's the thing with that game is like you gotta play it with the right person.
And
You
he's
know what I
also never played it, which is really good.
Ah,
So both of us
great.
experiencing it for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was my game of the year. It's no longer, but for almost the entire year, it was my game of the year. A truly memorable experience.
Nice.
Fantastic game.
All right. So we get to the Game of the Year discussion at the end of the show. We will talk about our Game of the Year, of course, our biggest surprise and our biggest disappointment. But we had one news I want to talk with Boom about on March 9th. Or let me get the other news out of the way. The other bigger news in March was actually Sony acquired the Evolution Championship Series and made a move into the esports scene with that. But the thing we want to discuss happened on March 9th, and that was the day when Bethesda officially joined Microsoft. We had that show with Phil Spencer and Aaron Greenberg, Todd Howard, Pete Hines, and all the other guys that showed up. They talked about, in this 1 hour show, about how they want to work together, what the chances are. Phil talked about the possibilities, for instance, with id Tech and the Halo developers or the coalition and stuff like that. And he also confirmed about that the games will be exclusive indeed. Bethesda games will be Microsoft exclusive, with the exception of those who had obviously contracts prior to the acquisition. Weirdly enough, we still have the conversation. I still see sometimes people talking about Starfield not being exclusive, but whatever. Boom, I wanna hear your thoughts on this acquisition and how they handled the Welcome to the Family show. And what are your thoughts on this?
This was what we were all waiting for, and I say we. If you're an Xbox fan who have been waiting for Microsoft to make a move that stopped the presses, so to speak, this was that move. This was announced, obviously, right before my birthday in September of last year. They put it out there like, hey, listen, we are in the process of acquiring Bethesda game studios, and it is and has been. I mean, I've been gaming for 40 plus years, since 78. I've only been covering game news since only for 4 years in the content creation business. And I can tell you that from just a gamer and a fan of gaming to actually having a podcast and quite a few of them, I've never seen anything so big. This shocked the world.
Yes,
I think that when you look at the significance of what this means for Xbox Game Studios moving forward, it is the biggest deal to happen. I mean, you can all look at all of their acquisitions prior, right? You can say, well, Ninja Theory was big, and NXIL is big, and all of the incredible studios that have joined them since the E3 2018, and there's been quite a few big ones. Obsidian being a very, very large one, in my opinion. But this Bethesda brings with them more than just a talented studio. It brings legendary IP that is beloved by millions and millions of people, whether that be the Skyrim, whether that be Fallout, whether that be, I said Skyrim, it really meant Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, you name it. There is literally something there for everyone. This was important to finally get the deal done. But I think what was important is we all walked away, the logical people walked away from this conversation understanding that Microsoft didn't really spend $8 billion on on Bethesda to have their IP go to PlayStation. So it was great to hear that and confirm that, yeah, that is what is happening. And we all suspected that was the case, right? Like I never thought otherwise. I said, well, when Sony acquired Insomniac Games, was Spider-Man ever going to come to Xbox? Well, the answer is no, it wasn't. And even if they decide to continue the Xbox exclusive, that will be exclusive to Sony in Sunset Overdrive. Let's say they decide to make Sunset Overdrive 2. They own that IP. That won't be on Xbox, and I wouldn't expect it to be. Same way as now that Microsoft is now officially welcomed in and the paperwork is signed, it was great to get clarification that something like Starfield, that is going to be a quote-unquote banger in 2022, is exclusive to Xbox and PC.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, weirdly enough, we still have the conversation. Anyone else wants to add something, Boom? I agree with you.
The only thing sorry,
yeah,
Matt.
go ahead, Ainsley.
No, Matt, go for it, man.
I was gonna say, the Bethesda thing is paying off already in ways that nobody really saw coming, because at the time we had all just thought about, oh, hey, next year we're gonna get lots of stuff, and Starfield's eventually gonna come, and all these things, right? But since then, you had all this back catalog come into Game Pass. You had a bunch of updates to these games as well. You had just lots of content. We got even like Quake Remastered is there now, but you also have Deathloop come out there, and which was a game that was kind of under the radar because it kind of seemed like it had lost some attention, and it came out, and even though it wasn't on the Xbox platform this year, it's from Arcane, which was one of the studios that was part of this whole deal that nobody was really talking about, right? Ains talked about Prey a little bit right here, which is another game that got updated and is in Game Pass, but seeing Deathloop go out and come out and get universal praise, high scores, be in the Game Awards and nominated and win some things, it's just another pillar to this whole deal, right? So you see this whole thing come together is way bigger and going to have a much larger impact, I think, than people's initial impressions of just Elder Scrolls and Fallout and Doom. You know what I mean? It's way bigger than that.
Yeah,
agreed.
I agree.
There was two things I was going to add, and Mav just did one of them, so he made that easy.
So I want to hear the other one.
The other one is really, and I know we've all talked about this too, is really the technology aspect, right? Bethesda being a major group of studios and publisher as well, they were also really heavy on the technical side of things. They have multiple engines under their banner, game engines, for different purposes, right? You kind of have the Elder Scrolls Fallout engine, which specializes in more open world, larger sandbox stuff. And then you have, of course, ID, right? ID Tech, which is, Doom and Wolfenstein and things. And those engines and the technology that go into them, and obviously the people who build them are all under Xbox Game Studios now as well, right? And let's not forget, and I'm going to forget the name of it. I was in the damn audience. I know Boom was with me, and I can't even remember the name of the streaming tech that Bethesda debuted 2 years ago at E3.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that, dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Orion or something?
Orion. I think that is it.
Yes.
Yes. So they, Bethesda was already on this pathway to doing their own kind of cloud streaming piece, which obviously Xbox is one of the biggest players in now, right? As we all know. So my point just simply being that there's a lot of kind of behind the scenes engineers, coders, technology that Xbox acquired with this entire bundle as well. So when people see the $7.5 billion, obviously the major play is IP strength, because that's where the core value is. But there's a lot of other things behind the scenes that make this just a long-term big investment for Xbox Game Studios.
Absolutely, and I think we haven't seen really the potential of what this acquisition can bring to the Xbox Game Studios. I mentioned earlier Phil already talking about id in combination with other Xbox Game Studios, but there's so much more than just IPs. It's a lot of technology and everything. Also, they have some of the best story writers. They have some of the best world designers out there. So yeah, I think that was really one of the biggest acquisitions in the industry, period. And adding up on that, I want to mention 2 super chats. The first coming again from Smitty Smith. Thank you so much, brother. He says Bethesda being acquired was a Titanic level move. Yeah, I agree. I've seen it someone else say also in chat. I don't know if we have ever had a bigger acquisition in the gaming industry. It's definitely up there.
You know what the Bethesda ZeniMax acquisition was, though. In essence, that was a mark of intent by Nadella and the rest of the hierarchy at Microsoft to show Phil Spencer that they did have, in all intents and purposes, the full intent to back Xbox and the project that they have in mind going forwards. That was a mark of intent by themselves to show their support. No company forks out 7.5 billion, and what turns out to be closer maybe to 8 billion at all said and done.
Closer to 8, brother. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
No hierarchy does that without obviously really showing that they've got the full backing. And Phil Spencer really must have seen, as soon as that was done and 8 billion was forked over for a large, substantial amount of staff, which now they're obviously the 8 billion is just a starting point. They've got then wages on top of that now going forwards. They've got
the entire overhead, everything, the buildings,
all the
everything.
Yeah. And that is, it's like I say, it's a mark of intent, and that just it showed that from the Nadella to Phil and the rest of the Xbox team. Yeah, you've got our support 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Want to mention another super chat that came in from Besat. I know him very well from Twitter, but for the love of it, I cannot pronounce your last name. I'm really sorry. He says, hi, Microsoft needs to use the Bethesda acquisition a lot more. Bethesda and Starfield do not mention that they belong to Xbox anywhere on social media. I haven't paid attention to that. But that seems really weird. And I agree.
Remember that Bethesda still has their own publishing arm.
Yeah.
So it's a little different nuance than prior acquisitions where they are published by Xbox. Bethesda can still publish their own games.
That is true. But otherwise, on the other hand, when you start up a Bethesda game, you will see the Xbox Game Studios logo. So for them not mentioning that on the social channels definitely seems weird to me. I have to look into this. Didn't know that, especially for Starfield.
Well, for a while, even they were separated on the Xbox website, whereas like Microsoft Game Studios, Bethesda Game Studios, but now they actually combine them all into one. So now they show up all as just Xbox Game Studios. So that was like as recent as last month, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So maybe their social media manager just didn't get the memo yet. So, all right. Then let's move to April. I can't believe we are already 50 minutes in the show and have only covered the first quarter of the year.
We got 9 months to go.
Did you forgot who you brought on?
I want to keep it to 2 hours. So, okay, let's talk about April. April was a big month for games. We had on April 1st Outriders coming out. We had on April 6th Oddworld Soulstorms. We had then MLB The Show on April 20th and Returnal on April 30th. So big month. Does anyone want to mention one of these games? Talk about those games before we move to the news item that I actually want to talk about.
I'll touch on Returnal real quick.
Okay, please do so.
Yeah, Returnal. Not a huge seller, not one of those blockbuster games, but from a very talented studio in Housemarque, PlayStation 5 exclusive, but a very unique game. And I know it's ended up on a lot of nominations for Game of the Year, which I think is deserving. It is it's a very unique game in the sense of it plays like an old style shoot 'em up, which are very skill based, right? You have to be very good and very fast paced. But in this 3D world, and once you beat the game, it actually tells a pretty meaningful story as well. So it's a very good game. I know not a ton of people played it so much. I think it's under 1 million copies sold, or at least it was. So if you do have a PlayStation 5 and you either like a challenge or just really enjoy the environments or like storytelling, yeah, I would definitely check that game out if you haven't. It is a very, very good game.
Yeah, I hate to disagree with you, but in this case, I kind of have to. I was actually a little bit disappointed from Returnal.
Okay.
My issue with it was it is beautiful, and the gameplay mechanics itself are good. The thing that really bugged me, and that's why I didn't play more than probably 4, maybe 5 hours, was that I didn't have the feeling that the game valued my time.
Right.
I was going to say that, brother. That is well said.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was really my issue with it, and I think time is something that I don't have much time with everything, the family, the work, the channel, the gaming, and everything that is going on in between. I need a game to value my time. Time is so precious. That's why I appreciate everyone being here in the chat. For instance, they are giving me their time, and it's one of the most valuable things you can give me, lending me your ear here on this show, and of course you guys. And I didn't think Returnal did a very good job in valuing my time playing it. And that's why I fell off.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair for sure, especially at launch when it had issues. I was on
maybe
like
I
an hour
should
and a
go
half
back
run.
to it now. Because there were too many hours that were wasted basically because of the games having issues. But I never went back, and it's not because people said to me when I said that on Twitter, "Oh, you just don't get roguelikes." No, I do get them. I love Hades, for instance. Really do. I just didn't think Returnal did a good job. But we get on the acquisition of Housemarque a little later, and I want to talk about Housemarque in specific then. So let's talk about what happened in April. There were not really many news, but one thing happened. We got the announcement that MLB The Show, a PlayStation published game, is coming to Game Pass day one, day and date. The same happened, of course, with Outriders, and in April we had a lot of discussions about the value of Game Pass and the impact of Game Pass on the industry, with a Sony published game launching on the day of its release in Game Pass. Obviously, that wasn't their choice. But still, we got that, and we have seen a lot of other day one releases over the course of the year. And I just want to talk about that with you, Mav. Want to hear your thoughts. What did you think about the MLB The Show day one thing and Game Pass in general and its value?
Yeah, the Game Pass for MLB The Show was shocking. Right, when that news actually dropped, it was like, oh my OMG. I think it was like King David had actually predicted this or something. It was like absolutely crazy, because not only did we get the show, like, which was something that, as a guy that liked playing baseball games, for forever, really was into the 2K series, MLB 2K, disappeared. So Xbox was left without a baseball game for a long time, right? And it's something I randomly up like at Phil Spencer on Twitter. Hey man, when we're gonna get a baseball game over here, But they didn't just go out and get one; they got the best one, and they had to work around Sony directly to MLB to make this happen, and then to see a Sony developed game actually show up as on Xbox, but then flip it around and then put it into Game Pass. That was insane because on Xbox you're getting a better value for a PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah,
which was
really
like
weird
monumental
to see.
Thing. Like, okay, so on PlayStation you have to pay $70, but on Xbox it's part of your subscription service. It was really strange. However, it was great. I think the game did really well because of it. They talked about this actually, how the game did better than they even had anticipated because of this move. So we'll see where that's going to go in the future. But also, Outriders, right? Outriders was almost like, it was another huge surprise. I remember as actually one of the first shows I was on, Boom's show, and when we had this discussion when Outriders was announced that it was coming to Game Pass, because I remember we talked about this changed the game. Because that was the first time a major third party published game was announced day one. Now we've had some indie games and stuff like that, like Carry On and things like that, but this was a major third party, double the AAA release, right?
Yeah.
Come on Game Pass day one. And I remember we talked about this, like, what is the future of Game Pass now, right? Because this changes the landscape. New things are now possible because of this. And then shortly after that, we had the MLB The Show news, right?
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
it's pretty crazy. We haven't seen as big of third party games get announced day one, but I still think that is coming onto the service, and I think it's just there's so much stuff, and they're trying to line things up and get schedules
Yeah.
and all these things put together, and I think they're going to make the right deals work at the right times.
I mean, we got
So-
a couple of awesome deals already announced for 2022. We have Stalker 2 coming day one. We
Yeah.
have A Blake's Tale 2 coming day one. Yeah,
Mhm.
so there's already a couple of bigger third-party games announced.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, and you put it together very well. It's something I've said on a couple of my videos. What changed with me when we had that discussion about Outriders, MLB, and so on, is I thought about what do I want the platform holder to actually do? Do I want them to pay for exclusive deals? Or do I want them to invest in day one Game Pass releases? Because if Microsoft pays for an exclusive third-party game, Boxenberg, I don't have a benefit from that. If a PlayStation gamer cannot play the game, I don't have a benefit from that. But if they spend the money on a day one deal for Game Pass, I actually have a benefit. And I think that is something that changed for a lot of people with all these things. So, does anyone want to add something to this?
I want to add one more thing to that. What you just
sure,
said,
please.
real quick, Archimedes, because for Xbox's perspective, if you're really thinking of it from their side, even though you may not be paying for full exclusivity, the marketing that gets behind that and the way that the better value, the premium value you get as far as entry fee into that game, it almost feels marketing wise and mindshare wise to the fan base as an exclusive when this happens, right?
I was going to say though, another thing to add on to that as well is the games that are going into Game Pass as well. I mean, outside of Control, have been the next gen versions as well for the most part. Like most of the games that have dropped into Game Pass from these third party publishers have been the next gen versions. Now, when you've seen the opposite on PlayStation's aspect, and they've put them into PS Plus or PS Now, it's always been the last gen version. So not only are Microsoft getting these games into Game Pass, but they're also getting the best version of that game into Game Pass. So like Mav is saying there, the marketing for that specifically is just well beyond what is worth it for an exclusivity agreement. I think now Game Pass is better than an exclusivity agreement because again, like you mentioned, it's a benefit as opposed to an exclusivity agreement as in general brings no benefit to us or gamers as a whole. With Game Pass, it means that one platform gets it, the other platform gets it, but it's in a service. So everybody wins, really. Everyone still has the game, but one platform just has it within a service.
Yeah.
If I can add to that, I think that Xbox Game Pass has truly become an exclusive in on itself, right? Like, this morning when we were talking on Breakfast with Boom, I said that I'm hoping that we don't see the Splinter Cell remake that Ubisoft is doing get locked down behind potentially Sony doing it, because they're notorious for that. Like their marketing is beast level, right? So I had asked a question to King David specifically: should Phil Spencer get in there and make sure that doesn't happen? But then I retracted what I thought. I said, you know something? They don't need it to be locked in behind the Xbox paywall. They just need to get it locked in. Say, hey, can we launch this into Game Pass day and date? And that is the exclusive in itself.
Yeah, I agree. Ains, you want to add something, or should we move on?
Yeah, I mean, you guys covered it.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about the value of Game Pass, especially in contrast to the to Nintendo and PlayStation for a long time, I'm sure, and I'm sure we'll touch on it in other parts in the show. But yeah, I think you guys covered all the key points. Yeah, it's just it's that good for us as consumers.
It is. It is. All right. Before we move on, let me briefly shout out some super chats. The first came in from Dave Ramos. Thank you so much. Loving the show, chance, and will be here for the full show. Can you share any Christmas wishes for Xbox, or gaming in general? Who wants to share any Christmas wishes?
100%. My Christmas wish is for Square Enix to stop being stooges and eventually put their games onto Xbox. That would be lovely.
Splinter Cell and Game Pass. So I don't
Splinter Cell and Game Pass.
Yeah,
wow.
There we go.
Wow. My wish is I hope that they can manage to keep up the servers, because I think a lot of people will unpack their Series X or S's, especially the S, sold very well, and I want to play a lot of games over the Christmas days, and I do hope that the servers will make it. Last year we got those DDoS attacks, and that brought the network down. I sure hope that won't happen this year.
Yeah, I got a wish. This is gonna sound like a broken record, but if Papa Claus, known as Phil Maximus Dominus Aurelius Spencer, is listening, and we know that he might be, my Christmas wish, very simply, could you freaking release a new Banjo-Kazooie? I mean, come on! What do I gotta do? I don't understand.
Yeah, shout that from the
Do I need to
rooftop.
dress up as the bear and put someone in my backpack?
I'll
for me
jump
to
in the
get this done?
backpack, Boom. I'm in.
Thank you. Yes. Well, you're a much taller man, so I'll jump in your backpack. I think so.
All right. So then we have another super chat coming in from Kilanitis. I would love to see Microsoft purchase Techland. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see a couple of European developers added, not just Techland, but Techland is definitely a talented studio. Can't wait for Dying Light 2.
Favorite. Asobo,
Asobo.
That's the key one I would like for them to invest in and get behind it.
I have to go to Crytek. I want to see a German studio.
I'm with you. As a Far Cry fan, the original creators of Far Cry, the creators of the Cry engine, and also Crysis, Rise, Son of Rome.
Awesome.
They have created new IP that has stood the test of time, and I think they'd be a good fit.
All right, we will get actually a little bit later in the show to the acquisition speculation. We have an entire topic on that. One more super chat before we move on. Parent Pluck 1983 says, "Boxy and panel, great show. Good to see your face." Yeah, thank you, dudes. Thank you so much. All right, and we got another one coming in from Crazy Louie, the man with the most legendary videos on Twitter. Boom, I'll dress up as Mancho, he says. Yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that. I've seen your Santa Louis videos here today, so good stuff here. Okay, let's move to May. May was very light on news. We had the Epic versus Apple lawsuit that started, and we got a couple of news out of that. We also got the first proper Unreal Engine 5 demo that was running on consoles, Xbox Series X and PS5. A lot of tech talk there, but that's about it. In terms of games, on the other hand, we had an awesome month. We got Resident Evil Village, Hood, Outlaws and Legends, Call of the Sea, Destiny 2, the Season of the Splicer released, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I hope you can see my goosebumps. Biomutant and MechWarrior 5. So, Ains, I want to get to you. That was a killer month, one of the best months.
I know what game Ains really enjoyed it.
I was going to say, I know people who know me are going to give me more crap for this, but I'll once again stand up for Biomutant.
I bought it on your recommendation, by the way.
I hope it wasn't money wasted, my friend.
No. I literally just got it on sale for $20.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I waited.
That's what I did too.
$20 during Black Friday. Yes.
Yeah.
I reviewed that game. I was one of the higher reviewers for it, gave it a high score because I really do enjoy it. The problem with the game is that it's a much bigger game than people think. It's I have like 80 hours in that game. And to even
That's
like
crazy.
do kind of the whole world and story, you need at least like 40 to 50. And I think people put a few hours into it and it wasn't grabbing them and they just kind of fell off. So they never got to see the things that are really cool in it. So anyway, I won't continue to preach on that, but I really enjoyed that game. The other one you mentioned that is huge is Resident Evil Village. I'll let Boom touch on this more because he's our RE super fan over there. But I personally I've reviewed Village as well. I've reviewed a lot of damn games this year. So I really enjoyed Village. I do. Some people didn't like that they went kind of more away from the hardcore zombie aspect. Some people like that they went a little more supernatural. I fall in the latter camp. I actually liked it. Really enjoyed that game. So I know it's been up for a lot of awards, including Game of the Year in a lot of places. So Capcom just continues to kill it, in my opinion, with the RE engine and the modern RE game. So it's cool to see. But Boom, I know you'll have more to say on that.
I do, and here's the thing. It is we're what 2 weeks away from the end of the year. I haven't beaten it yet. I got up to the part with Chris where you take over as him. No spoilers. And
you're right at the end, Boom.
Yeah, I'm literally. I know I'm literally right there. I'm gonna be honest with you. After playing Resident Evil 7, which was my game of the year, I believe was that 2017? Was that 2017? That's when it came out. My game of the year. I didn't think a first-person Resident Evil could work, and it did. It just took me to a place I didn't know I wanted to go in Resident Evil because I'm a third-person, over-the-shoulder kind of guy. Resident Evil 8, I enjoyed it. It was fun. It wasn't memorable for me.
Okay.
I like the people who want zombies, who want hunters, who want lickers, things of that nature. Yeah. I didn't get that. I thought that the characters that you meet are awesome, especially this specifically the vampire family. But it just the Lycans and the vampire war that was going on in the midst of this thing. For me, it's forgettable because I expected because Resident Evil 7 wasn't really zombies, but they still made it a Resident Evil game where I felt this walked over the line. As opposed to walking the line. So it's going to be in my top 10. I'm not saying I hated the game, but I wasn't as enthralled. So much so that I haven't beaten it yet. Not because it's terrible. Not because I'm, a RE fan crying in the corner, rocking. No, I like what they did. I just thought it was just too much with the Lycans. And it moved to, Resident Evil can go really out on the ledge. This was too far out on the ledge for me.
Got it.
Okay. I'm actually kind of exactly the other way around. I didn't enjoy Resident Evil 7 that much. It somehow didn't click with me. Maybe it was too scary. I don't know. But I really enjoyed 8. That really brought it back for me. Yeah, great game.
I'm saying
Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Guys, who has played it? And I want to hear from everyone. Mass Effect 1 or 2.
Oh, here we go.
Favorite?
Here we go.
Here we go. Let's go. Ains, 1 or 2?
I'm an old school 1 guy. I think you know
1.
this.
Okay, I have to kick you out of the show. Meth, what is
I want to stay on the show, but not only because of that, too.
2.
I love the blend. It kind of combines the action with the RPG perfectly.
Okay. Boom.
It's 2. I'll say this. No, I'll put it this way. The Legendary Edition did things with 1 that were excellent, right? They made it very playable because 1 was, you go back to play 1. It's
the biggest upgrade.
It's tremendous. Especially the elevator rides were extremely much shorter than the original. For me, 2 is the GOAT. It's still one of my most favorite achievements of all time. I literally jumped up the couch and nearly hit my 8-foot ceiling because I beat the game that no one died. That was my crown achievement. But I have to go with 2 as sorry, Ains. So
I know I'm in the minority, but we're a hardcore minority. You know, we stand
Yeah.
strong. We stand
We
strong.
have to shout out Pong here. He seems to be in the same camp like you are.
Yes, yes.
He's just old.
he's just old. I was just
He's
going to
just
say that. He's
old.
not as old as
Ah,
me.
well.
He's just old.
So, Dutch, where do you stand? 1 or 2?
2.
2. Good.
Yeah.
So we settled that. Ains 4 against 1.
All right, guys, it's been
I
fun. I'll
think
see you
we-
later.
All right, guys, let's move on to June. Yeah, June, we had 2 major games, Ratchet and Clank and Dark Alliance. Ratchet and Clank, has anyone played it?
Mhm.
It's gonna be in my top 10. I loved it. I'm an old school cat that appreciates platformers. Listen, what Insomniac is able to do is just forget their output. Forget the fact that they've put out some of the best Spider-Man games in history. Miles Morales was a launch game for the PS5, which is brilliantly done. Sure, shorter experience, but there's so many emotional ties to it. But Ratchet and Clank, yeah, there's been 30 of them, but they just keep delivering on the visuals. The story, it's just if you're an old school platform fan, you gotta smile playing that game.
Yeah, and I did so many times. I also absolutely loved it. I like the level design. I like the movement, the story. The writing is funny. It's gorgeous. Yeah, big fan.
Yeah, it's a great game. I actually
Absolutely.
sadly haven't finished it. It's one of the
Oh,
major games I started this year. I haven't finished.
Me
but
too. I'm doing the cardinal sin of gaming. I never did this until this year. Angel, you said it earlier. This year has been incredible for game releases, considering that
Yeah.
we are still suffering
Yeah.
through a pandemic. How did they get these games out? I don't know. I was playing like 5 or 6 games at once. I hate doing that because you miss out on finishing experiences like a Ratchet and Clank because of that. Resident Evil's another one. I should have finished it months ago, and I just didn't.
yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But I'm about 2/3 through it, I think, and I agree with you guys. Great game.
I highly recommend to finish it. The ending is actually really good. So yeah, definitely one of the best games this year. Then what else did we have? We had 2 major things happen in June. The first is of course E3, and Dutch, I want to go to you with this. I mean, E3 this year still not in person, of course, but unfortunately, Sony didn't show again, but Xbox had actually 2 shows. They had their major show, and then 2 days later, they had that post show thing with Paris Lily, which I actually thought was probably even better than the main show, because we have seen so many insights to the game development for Hellblade 2, Halo was shown with proper gameplay then, and so on. Was actually really good. So I want to discuss with you, was it one of the best, if not the best, Xbox E3 shows? Because I have seen a lot of people state that on social media after E3. What were your thoughts?
Absolutely, 100%. Like, one of my fondest memories this year was covering the E3 this year, and obviously the anticipation beforehand from everybody was like, right, Xbox really needs to hit it out the park. And I've never seen them just smash it like they did, but also just the consistent like announcement after it and the pacing of the show. That's the thing as well. The key thing that Xbox has messed up on previously wasn't just the announcements, but it was the way that the show was announced and the pacing and how much talking that was done as opposed to how much gameplay was done. And this year it was just non-stop. It was just game after game after game after game, and then a very brief chit chat, and then continuing game after game after game after game. And the smiles on people's faces. We had 5, 6 people, maybe 7 people covering it on our show. And we seen when Atomic Heart was announced, and then also announced going into Game Pass, and Dark Knight was just over the moon. He was like that. I've been keeping a track on that game for a long time. I did not expect it to go into Game Pass, let alone get shown off today. And then obviously we've seen the Stalker footage, you've seen obviously Halo, you've seen literally anything and everything you could want, the Plague's Tale. You've seen Sea of Thieves getting that unbelievable Disney collaboration with A Pirate's Life. You've seen Forza Horizon getting announced. It was literally just non-stop. The first glimpse of Starfield at the very beginning.
Yeah.
The entire show was literally the best thing I've seen Xbox put out in terms of its pacing and content for as long as I can remember. But then you mentioned the next day, and the thing that stood out to me the next day from a creator's perspective was just how awesome it was to see Paris, who's worked so hard to get where he is,
Yes.
be given
Great
the
point.
opportunity to
Yeah.
represent Microsoft and Xbox on the stage and do these one-on-one interviews with these developers and really represent what is technically the creator community, and just how far he's come. And that gives, again, credence to the fact that what we do as potentially a hobby, we also put a lot of work into, and he's put a lot of work into what he's brought up and what he's created.
Yeah.
And that's been recognized by Microsoft. So again, it's a two things there. It's just how well Xbox did on that show, and then obviously the awesomeness it was to see Paris get the opportunity to do that. And again, that gives just more credence to what we try to do every week as well. And no, it's just absolutely magnificent, and really, really fun memories of that show.
I absolutely agree. It was a really, really good E3 showing. Guys, thumbs up, down on E3.
Huge
Honestly,
thumbs
it
up.
was
Thumbs up.
probably, I would dare say, the best they've ever put out. Like, it was a legitimate banger, like the kids are saying, kind of a show. Like, there was nothing you could have walked away from that show and be like, yeah, could have been better. Nope.
Yeah,
I think it was
Yeah.
really important,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because before this, like this was their first big showcase since they had the previous year where they kind of had their shorter E3 presentation that was kind of like their own show where they revealed their exclusive games like the Forza Motorsport, Fable, and all that stuff. And then before that, they had the their next gen game reveals showcase, which really fell flat for a lot of people. So this E3, there was so much anticipation because they had so much momentum, right? They had so much momentum, and everybody in this in the community that has been just putting up with the BS over the last generation, right, for so long, to have this E3 on the horizon after all this momentum, and if they had fallen flat and not come out swinging, then it
Yeah.
could have changed the course of the next few months of like mindshare. But instead, they came out and delivered beyond expectations, which is incredibly hard to do. And without doing that, then it would have fallen flat. But they did it. They went and delivered something that was truly the best E3 presentation, period, not just by Xbox. That for me was just nonstop amazing stuff from start to finish. And the crazy thing is, out of all the stuff they showed, they held back so many things still that they had to show. So the way they put the show together, they held stuff close to best. We got stuff that we found out is coming next year. And then we also got amazing graphics, right? We saw Forza Horizon 5 for the first time, which stole the show at E3. And that launched that game with the momentum to where we saw it had the success that it did. So it was a huge show, and it was very important. And I think that changed a lot of things after they cemented themselves at that presentation that they are for real. They are going to go hard, and I don't think it's going to stop. We're going to continue to see this Microsoft for a long time after making that statement that they did at E3.
I mean, it was the first E3 with the new consoles out, so it was particularly important for them to set the tone for this upcoming generation, and I think that's what they really delivered.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I think, as Boom said, I kind of went back to E3s prior over the many years to see if anything really jumped out to me as much. And there's some fantastic moments, backwards compatibility announcement, things like that, that really hit hard at certain E3s. But when you look at the overall show and what was shown and the excitement it built, I think this was just easily one of their best. The pacing was perfect too. It was just excellent all around.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Boom, I've seen you got to leave in 5 minutes, so I want to cover one other topic with you. And that is the news that we got on June 29th. Sony acquired Housemarque. Only 2 days later, July 1st, Sony acquired Nixxes Software.
Yeah.
So, the acquisition season started, just not on the side where we heard the rumors all the time. What are your thoughts on these acquisitions?
I mean,
Sony
they were kind of like writing on the wall, so to speak. I mean, obviously, Housemarque has worked with the PlayStation exclusively for years, right? Like this was not a surprise. That on that, was it that day or the day before? They accidentally, on purpose, let everyone know that Blue Point was joining PlayStation Studios.
Yeah.
Which, again, I mean, is any one of us that covers this on a weekly basis, are we surprised? No, of course we're not surprised. And something good on Sony, because listen, I'll be the first one to tell you, Returnal was not my jam, because I agree with you. I don't think they went out of their way to disrespect people's times. I think that the game they crafted is quite an incredible game. It's just that they just didn't think a little outside the box when it came to like save stuff. I understand of Rogue, and I get all of that, but you can't have me play a game for 3 hours and then accidentally lose all of my progress because of a bug. You can't do that in modern gaming. But those studios joining Sony at SIE was, again, not surprising, but incredibly important for SIE, and I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for the gamers, and I'm happy for myself, because I'm a PlayStation gamer and I own all the consoles. So when they win, I win too. I mean, these are not surprising moves, and I think we're going to see more of them in the future. I just don't know if they're going to be in position to do a Bethesda level thing. I think what they're doing is acquiring studios that have a history with their brand, and that bring a unique PlayStation level or like title to the conversation, and I think you're starting to see that. And again, we all win when Sony does this.
I agree 100%. 100%. Anyone else wants to add something to this?
No, I think you pretty much
we
summed it up.
will talk about Sony acquisitions again. So yeah, Boom. I know you have to leave. But I wanted to say a big thank you
my pleasure.
for
Thank
making
you.
it here
Thank
today. I want to give you the opportunity, of course, to briefly talk about your game of the year. We will have a proper game of the year discussion at the end of the show, of course. But let us know what is Mr. Boomstick's
Halo Infinite, baby.
Okay,
Halo
yes.
Infinite is I like I said it in my X Vlog series that launched earlier this week, and it talks specifically. I gave Halo a 10 out of 10. Is it a perfect game? No, it is not. There are some things that need to be worked out on both sides of the coin, meaning single player and multiplayer. But is it the best Halo that 343 has ever done? 100%. Is it my favorite Halo game of all time? 100%. I think that this game, what it has done for 343 Industries, is completely removed the shroud of shadow from Bungie. I think they have outpaced Bungie in every way possible. Halo 3 was and has been my favorite Halo of all time. The most multiplayer, the most single player. A game I finished on Legendary in co-op, which was amazing. And I spent a ridiculous, obscene amount of time playing with my brother. And I am telling you right now, from an old school Halo fan, this is exactly what I wanted. And it's what we have been asking 343 to deliver, and they did, in fact, deliver. It is a 10 out of 10 for me. It is my game of the year. And I would say that it is the game that we're going to look back at next year and see an entirely different game, but still be talking about it.
Fair assessment. It is an amazing game. I've said it prior to the show. I think what people really don't mention enough is how full of a package Halo actually is. It delivered a full open world single player campaign. It delivered more multiplayer content than any of the typical multiplayer games like Battlefield or Call of Duty. And it's polished. So
Yes.
it's really a full package, and it's a good choice for Game of the Year, definitely. Okay, Boom. So thank you again for making it here today. Let everyone definitely know where they can find you. I put, by the way, all the links to the channel members in the description of this show. You can find their Twitters, YouTubes, socials, websites, everything in there. But please tell people where they can find you, and maybe.
Well, I don't
you
want to hold
have-
up the show. I don't
No,
want to hold
no,
up the
and
show
maybe.
anymore. But I will say this: if you're interested and
Yeah.
you want the kind of Boom that you got here today, what you see is what you get. Double Barrel Gaming on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Boomstick XL. DMs are open to everyone. And listen, thank you again. It was a pleasure and an honor being on today's show, working with these fine gentlemen. And I want to wish everyone a very, very happy holidays, a blessed new year, and of course, stay safe. And we'll all be talking soon. Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye, Boom.
Thank
Bye,
you,
Boom.
Boom.
Thank you, Boom.
Thank you, Boom. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. So let's talk about July. July. What were the games we had? Death's Door, highly recommended, by the way, for everyone who hasn't played it. We got the Microsoft Flight Simulator and The Ascent. So definitely thumbs up. A good month for gaming. Anyone wants to say something about these?
Yes,
3 great games.
100%. Flight
Three
Sim for
great
me. Flight
Yeah,
Sim for
I know
me.
you loved it.
Yeah, well, it's you know what it is. It's not just the fact that it's Flight Sim, but it's just the amazement that they got that thing running and running so well on console for a game that is notoriously so power hungry on PC over the years. Now it takes a monstrous level PC to get that thing running at any real quality. And the level of shine and performance that they managed to get onto the console version, let alone just get it running in the first place, was just outstanding. Of course, it's a lot of personal things that I have for the Flight Sim series as a whole. Now I've played it on both the PC and the Xbox since it was released this time around. But that is just, again, that's a phenomenal game, start to finish, from a technical level as well as just a graphical level. Death's Door was just such a fun little game to play. The right level of difficulty, I think, for any level to kind of play that game. And what was the last one you mentioned again? The Ascent.
The Ascent.
Yes.
Death's Door, yeah.
Awesome game. Had some really good times playing that, both co-op and solo. It did have its issues at launch. It did have quite a few bugs that prevented people from progressing and things like that at certain points. But it was an awesome game. Still is an awesome game, to be honest. And I look forward to seeing kind of more from that developer and potentially the world of Ascent.
Agree. I had a blast playing it. It's funny you mentioned the bugs. I got a review code, played it before everyone else because of that, and it ran really well. And as soon as it launched and the net code got activated properly and everything, suddenly I had a lot of bugs in it. That's just what happens with these smaller studios. It was for them for the first game and a very ambitious one. So I still recommend to play it. It's a great game. All right, Ains, I got something I want to discuss with you that happened in July. On July 20th, the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing initiated a lawsuit against Activision and Blizzard. We have seen this news continued over the year. A lot of bullshit came out over the next couple of months. But that day was when it was made public. Activision Blizzard treated a lot of women inappropriately, sexual harassments, threats. There were apparently even death threats. A lot of bullshit we heard from the management. Bobby Kotick denied knowing about this. Later we've found out he apparently still he did know about it and stuff like that. It has been a controversy over the entire year. I want to hear your thoughts on this Activision Blizzard thing.
Yeah, man, there's a lot, right? It's sadly a problem in many different facets. Obviously, not only with Activision and Blizzard, but plenty of other companies across both the U.S. and the world. But there's a lot I could say on this that borderlines on, outside of the gaming industry as well, about just the status of work employment and kind of the corporate structure in the United States in particular. But it is maddening to see. And it's maddening to see that it's even gotten to the point now where they've had walkouts, they've had protests. There's obviously legal cases being filed. There's plenty of evidence of the things that have gone on here in very poor taste or worse. And despite all that, they even a few weeks ago, the shareholders union for Activision Blizzard even asked Bobby Kotick to step down. And he still hasn't, as we know today, right? So I had this conversation on Bitcast one week, which is when you're in this situation where you have a CEO that has so much power and is worth so much money, which is true across a lot of companies in the US, and there's evidence of wrongdoing and plenty of it, but he still refuses to step down. What do you do? What's the recourse, right? And sadly, it's usually a very long tail, meaning that it takes a lot of years of court cases and all these things to be drawn out before true change actually happens. And I think the sad thing is that if you dive deeper into the details here, and believe me, it's a weed, so I wouldn't even recommend it. But it's not just Bobby Kotick, right? There's a whole wealth of executive level employees at Activision that just come from very, very nefarious positions. And it's really wild to see when you really get into it. And it's a shame. At the end of the day, I think all of us agree that the sad part is here for your developers, and especially your kind of lower level developers or people trying to start a career or get into the gaming industry, who are genuinely good people doing excellent work and just trying to make a career for themselves. And if you're in that situation, it's very easy for us to sit here and say, oh, just go to a different company. You know what I mean? It's very easy to say that. That's not the reality for a lot of these people. You may live in an area where there's not a lot of opportunities. You may be threatened. You may have other situations with your family or things going on in your life where you just can't get up and move or can't get up and go to another job. You may not have financial stability, right? So there's a lot of factors here, but it's a very negative thing. And sadly, as much as all of us here and many of the outlets talk about it and shine a light on it, that's only going to do so much. I think we need to keep being vocal. I think we need to keep speaking out and just hope that eventually justice kind of comes to fruition. But it is, I do feel empathy and kind of compassion for those probably hundreds or thousands of people at Activision Blizzard that are genuinely good people trying to do their best for good games. And they have to deal with this on a daily basis. In fact, we've seen on Twitter some of the outpouring from people working at the company saying it's really hurting their morale, if you will, right, in terms of working on things. So it's kind of disheartening. You know what I mean?
I agree 100%. And we have seen the fallout already happening. There were, I think, 3 weeks ago, over 1,000 layoffs at some support studios.
Raven Software too, who have worked on some of the biggest Call of Duty games over the past 5-10 years. So they're just go with a different company, and those people are let go. And it's
that is really the thing. What is happening now? And we've discussed this on multiple different podcasts. Should you buy Activision games? Should you boycott them? I was kind of on the side when I stopped buying them. Now I kind of the first people that will feel that is the smaller developer. It's exactly what happened now. It is a difficult thing to do, but I totally understand everyone who says I don't buy Activision Blizzard games anymore. It's a difficult thing to do. I just bought Diablo this year, nothing else from them. It is a tough thing. Anyone else wants to add something to this?
It's just a shame to see continue all year round and literally nothing being done about it. And we've seen Activision. Well, I say Activision. We've seen Bob and his pals come out and say, "Oh yeah, we're taking seriously, we're doing X, Y, and Z," and then the devs themselves have to release a separate statement saying you're not doing anything. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, nothing's getting done, and if it is getting done, it's not getting done quick enough.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's even to the point now where the shareholders have come out and asked him to step down, and he still isn't. I don't understand why. It's clear that he's now essentially being told, leave, then we can sort this out, because you are essentially the issue at the center of all of this now. And he just doesn't want to. I think he just refuses to.
And
it's
the board
only
of
gonna be-
directors also is on his side, which is
Yes,
insane.
which is it goes to what I said. It's not just him, right? There's this layer of just terrible people.
It's the whole hierarchy at the top. You know, they all need to go, honestly.
They do, 100%. And the problem they've got is they don't understand that the more this bad news continues, the more it's going to drive down the worth of the company. And then it's going to be worth absolutely nothing to them anyway. So it does not benefit them by sticking around. What it does benefit is that if they just cut their losses and do it now, or they'll end up with nothing anyway. So it's either way, they're either going to end up with nothing in their pockets, and then eventually the company wins and it'll eventually rebuild, or they leave now and they have their fat stacks in their pocket from selling their shares on, and save some kind of dignity for themselves, and then the company can rebuild. But either way, it's not a good look. And I really feel, I mentioned the other day as well, the Game Awards, seeing a number of Activision developers and Blizzard developers say they completely understand why the Game Awards ignored all of their games, but it was still heartbreaking that their hard work had to be ignored for it to happen. And it was, you have to feel for them, because they're stuck in between a rock and a hard place. They're working hard to make games that people like, and unfortunately they're stuck to a company that is dragging them through the dirt right now. It's the only reason I wanted to get resolved, obviously primarily, is for this stuff to get eradicated from gaming in general, but also so these developers can actually feel proud of the place that they're working and the work that they're doing again, because right now it's killing them. And
I mean, to speak to the arrogance you're dealing with here, and I think that's what, me personally, I arrogance just drives me bonkers. And when Bobby Kotick comes out and says, "I'll step down if I can't fix this," when he's literally driving the problems, right? I mean, the level of arrogance that speaks to is just it's not unprecedented. We see it all the time, right?
But he doesn't realize he's what needs to be fixed and removed from the situation.
He's so far beyond in terms of what he can do because of who he is. It's just it's maddening. It's maddening.
Couldn't have said it better. Okay, guys, let's move on to
better
something
topics.
a little bit better topics, more positive topics. August was probably the indie month of the year, and I've said it before in videos and podcasts. I think 2021 was the year of indies. We had so many awesome indies: Death's Door, The Artful Escape, The Ascent, Song of Iron, and some of them actually came out in August. So we had this month Art of Rally, Hades, 12 Minutes, Song of Iron, Psychonauts 2, and Myst, the remake. So I wanna briefly discuss here indies in 2021 and their importance for gaming this year. So, Mav, I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it was a huge step up. I think this generation, you remember in like early Xbox One and PS4 generation, Xbox was just like games are games, right?
Yeah.
And they removed like the indie category and everything. And it's like, okay, but are they really? You know what I mean? Like, it's like you were going through and like there was stuff mixed in. It's like this doesn't really belong with that, you know. But that's changed now. You've seen these games from these smaller teams become some of the best games of the year, right? And some of the biggest games, some of the most well put together games, like that. Like you gave the example of Death's Door, right? Hades actually made its way to Game Pass, which had come out last year, but Hades was amazing.
Yeah.
Like on Xbox, I freaking loved it. You had
Also
It
came
Takes
out on
Two, which
PlayStation.
yeah,
It had basically its console launch this year. Yeah, it came out on PC last
Mhm.
year.
That's fantastic. It Takes
Yeah.
Two. You could argue whether that's technically an indie or not. It is still a smaller
Yeah.
team that makes that, but I mean, to come away with nominations for Game of the Year and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just truly a shift. I think with all the tools that are out there for developers and the talent that's out there, and people taking on projects themselves instead of going to work for other larger companies, or you have people leaving larger companies to start their own smaller indie studios and then coming out with these
Yeah.
projects and you play them and it's like, oh my gosh. And you mentioned Song of Iron, right? That's what this one guy, he had two if you count like
The composer. Yeah.
composer and stuff, right? But like that game was like really fun. I know that some people have some issues with it and stuff, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed my time playing that game that was made by literally two people, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's so many examples of that, that you can see where it's headed, right? And that's the main takeaway from this year for indies is this was a really push forward with quality for me, and I think it's only going to get better and better and better. So, man, it was a great year, and that month in particular, oh my gosh, because 12 minutes, man, and I know some people didn't love that either, but that was an experience playing that game, right? It was a different experience than I ever had playing anything else and ever played, right? It was very interesting, unique take.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait to try and figure out the outcomes and the way you were playing that game. It was like you were coming up with the solutions yourself in your head and then testing things out to see in the game to see if they work. And then when it actually worked, you're like, oh my gosh, like they actually had the same thought process that I had when they were developing the game. And that kind of connection right there was really, really cool. So some really amazing things that they put together, that they put out this year in the indie community. So that's it.
What else to add? Very well said. Such special experiences. Dutch, do you want to add something?
I'm just looking forward to playing it tomorrow then to see what it was all about.
Yeah.
12 minutes. 12 minutes
Yeah.
though, it was such a 12 minutes itself was such a different, like you said, much different experience. And I remember just dying so many times the first few times around. And I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What is going on here? But then figuring out, right, okay, so I get it. So then every time you played through it, you unlocked just a little bit more at what you had to do and where the story was going and how to avoid certain situations.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was just a really different take on a puzzle game, should we say?
I think
but
that is what makes so many indie games unique, because these indie developers can really take unique gameplay elements
Yeah.
in there. You have a bigger budget, bigger team, you always have to stick to well-known formula, established formulas, because you have such a high budget behind it that you can't afford to experiment. But that's the beauty of indie games, yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly the thing. It's indie developers have still got the ability to take these massive risks on new game styles that some of these AAAs
Agreed.
refuse to take. And that's the beauty. Specifically this year, as we've mentioned, it primarily for me, it's really been the year of the indie. There's been so many amazing titles. Some of my fondest memories this year have come from indie games, and they still do come from indie games. Like even last year, the tail end of last year, one of my favorite and still sticks in my mind is just such a basic game, but it's The Tourist. I love that game, and that one sticks out to me. But indie developers as a whole, there's so many great games this year. And again, if it wasn't for the fact that obviously Microsoft swallowed up Double Fine, and no doubt we'll get up to that. Took on Double Fine, and Tim. Obviously, that would have been an indie title in technicalities as well, and such a great game. But yeah, I hope it continues. Long may it continue into next year as well, because we've seen some tremendous things from it, indies.
Agree 100%.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to Gamescom. That also happened in August. Actually, for me, it was probably kind of underwhelming. Can anyone recall anything that has been announced?
Gamescom felt pretty quiet this year.
Yeah, so I'll help you out because I had to actually look it up. We had actually 2 shows: the Xbox show 1 day prior to Gamescom. Nothing new has been announced. We have seen Forza Horizon 5 and Age of Empires 4 gameplay. We have seen the Gunk State of Decay 2 getting an update and a Flight Sim update. That was basically the Xbox show. So really not much. And then we had opening night live with a couple of game announcements. Midnight Suns got announced. Saints Row, Call of Duty Vanguard was shown for the first time. Halo Infinite got a cinematic trailer. We had Far Cry 6 there, and Sifu, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, was announced there, and then the Death Stranding director's cut, and that's basically it. So given that COVID was still a big thing this year, I think a lot of shows suffered from that, and Gamescom has always been that show that was more of a actually hands-on show. In terms of pure attendees, it was always way bigger than E3. Yeah. E3 was typically that media press event. I know they opened it now for the public, but only with limited numbers. Gamescom has way beyond 200,000 attendees each year, and that couldn't happen this year. And I think that is what made it so underwhelming, that its main core wasn't there. So I want to take this as a chance to talk about all these shows we missed out on. All the packs, everything around the globe didn't happen. Mav, I want to hear from you guys on this. Did it hurt us gamers to not have these shows? Are you hoping to get them back next year? What are your thoughts?
Muted.
Mav, you muted.
Yeah.
Dang it! I'm sorry. Holy crap! That's yeah. I never got to attend one of these in person before, But so for me, the experience was always watching the stage show, right? And then also getting to see all the news and the reactions and all that stuff. And for this year, for the most part, a lot of that still seemed the same to me. But I miss the buzz about the events, right? That everybody, all the pictures of people going to the events, all the in-person interviews, seeing the crowds and everything. So I think as it gets better with the pandemic and everything over the course of the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot of these things return. But as far as impact, I think overall the impact was still strong. In fact, I would argue this at some aspects, some of these things got more media coverage than they would have otherwise, because they invited, like, we got a freaking pass to E3. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I like I couldn't have done that like without this. Now that granted, there wasn't really anything worthy and worthy there to look at in the E3 press area, But it's still everybody felt like included in this at home. So I think they did a good with certain shows. They did a good job, and I'll add to this like outside of the gaming world, DC fandom has done a really good job of having an online based event where it kind of brings the community together. But there's some that have fallen flat,
Yeah.
I think Gamescom kind of fell flat. I think that PAX Southwest was just recently canceled as well. So those kind of things have an impact because those are like regional things. Like we don't have a lot of things in Texas, to be excited to go to. We got like QuakeCon is here, and then also PAX Southwest, and those were the two kind of big events that we have. So to have those kind of canceled leaves an impact in the local communities more than it does, I think, online. With you know what I mean? So
I know what you mean. I said something similar on I think it was Boom's show. It is not the same to have it online than in person.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're in the crowd, Ains, you have been to E3 before, you can tell better than anyone else. There's just something magical to it. I've been to Gamescom, of course. The thing is, though, that almost all these shows are for most gamers on a global scale not attendable. Is that an English word? I don't know. People cannot
Sure.
go there.
Yeah.
I probably, as much as I would love to go to E3, but it's just too far away. I have to fly to America, book a hotel that would make a way too expensive trip for me.
Mhm.
So for me, having a digital E3 actually made me participate more than before. Yeah. So I hope that if we see these in-person shows again, which I truly hope that we do, because there's something special to Gamescom and E3 and everything. But I want them, what they are doing now, to do that again, still while we have the in-person events, because it's really, yeah. Something awesome, because now we could attend a digital E3. I have not been able to do that before. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think last year in 2020, when the pandemic was kind of fresher, they really struggled, right? Last summer was kind of a mess of events. We
Yeah.
didn't really get a lot
Everyone
of
was
them.
trying to figure out how
Right.
everything works.
Yeah, and I think they did a better job this year, but I don't think they've perfected it by any stretch of the imagination, right? I think they can continue to kind of refine and revise. And, you know, we all kind of joked this year that, oh, 2022, we'll be back to normal. And as we're seeing, you know, the whole back to
Yeah.
normal thing is just being more delayed. So I don't think there's any guarantees there. So I hope, to your point, Arch, is that even when things were normal, quote normal, the majority of the world still couldn't attend, no matter what event
Yeah.
it was, right? Just logistically, it doesn't make a lot of
Yeah.
sense. So I hope, if nothing else, this has kind of accelerated the conversation and the work that goes into presenting these shows digitally, right? Because there's no reason why we can't have a great show in person for those who can attend,
Yeah.
in parallel or simultaneously to having a great digital show. I don't think those two things have to live in separate areas. You know what I mean? So I hope next year in 2022, we really see kind of whether it be Keeley, who comes together with like the ESA and E3 and kind of just bring everyone working as one group to put on a fantastic show digitally, even if they hold it in person again as well.
Yeah. Agree. All right. Let's move on. I accidentally closed my notes. Hang on one second. So where were we? We were in. There we go. We start with September. September, we got the release of The Artful Escape. By the way, one of the best indie games this year. It's really good. Then we have Life is Strange. True Colors came out. We had Deathloop. Shame on me, I still didn't play that one. Anyone played it?
Yeah, I reviewed Deathloop actually.
Yeah.
Really good.
Few hours in.
Really good. I said earlier I love Arcane. I just
Yeah.
love the way they make games.
Prey was great.
Yeah, Prey.
Yeah.
I mean, Dishonor. You know, they make unique games, and
Absolutely.
Deathloop. Excuse me. Just it had all that Arcane polish in terms of movement and gunplay, but it had a really unique setting and story. Just a fantastic game.
Yeah. It just came out at the wrong time for me. So I might have to play that over the Christmas days, because I hear nothing but good things about it. Then we had Kenna Bridge of Spirits. I liked it. I didn't think it was great. It kind of fell off at the ending for me, to be honest. It started very strong, gave me Zelda meets Dark Souls vibes. In a good way, but kind of at the end it became really repetitive. So, but still a good game. And we got Diablo 2, the Resurrected, what we are seeing here right now in gameplay. In terms of news, we got more Sony acquisitions. Sony acquired Firesprite and they acquired Bluepoint in September. And we didn't see many bigger news from Sony this year, to be honest. They had a pretty okay year, not that many news. The acquisitions were kind of the bigger news items. What I want to talk about is, through the entire year, we have heard from Xbox guys, it's acquisition season. And there has been not 1 month where we didn't have a week where everyone in the Xbox community started to speculate who will Xbox acquire next, who should they acquire, and so on. Mav, you know my thoughts on this because we've talked about it multiple times on
It's
the
coming.
Xbox Factor
It's coming.
podcast.
Yeah.
But we have gotten 0 acquisitions this year. And Dutch, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Is it what is it that makes these acquisition discussions so repetitive? We get them all the time. People jump on the smallest rumors, and the only one who actually acquired stuff was Sony, and I've not seen many people actually talk about that. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, in terms of the Sony acquisitions, primarily, they are what you'd expect. Companies have worked with pretty much directly. It was when Playground got acquired by Xbox, for instance. Like they pretty much specifically only ever worked with Xbox. So when they got acquired, it was kind of makes sense. So the likes of Firesprite and the likes of Bluepoint, they've only ever really worked with Sony. So it makes sense to bring them in just so they've got one less money worry, because that's essentially what that was anyway. It was these companies are kind of hoping that they don't have to have the worry of development costs and things over their head all the time, or where they're going to get funding from, and having to beg Sony every time for a project. That's pretty much guaranteed now, so it protects the livelihoods of the developers at these companies, which is awesome to see. But they're pretty much guaranteed. In terms of the acquisition season thing that we keep hearing about, it is no secret Xbox aren't done with acquisitions. They are still actively looking, but acquisitions aren't an overnight thing. What might have happened or might be ongoing. It doesn't necessarily mean it's what people know about certain discussions. It might be great, and we might not know about those discussions. But these things take time. They take a lot of time to come to fruition. They can't officially speak about any of this stuff until the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So it's going to be a long time until we hear about any of and you'll never hear about the failed ones ever, because no one's going to come out and speak on the things that don't go ahead. You'll only hear the stuff that does go ahead. So there might be discussions about companies, or had discussions about companies. And as I think Phil Spencer's mentioned before, the 99% of the time, the stuff that you see as rumor was discussions we had months, if not years prior. So this is stuff that's already happened and has been discussed way in the past, and you're only just hearing about these discussions now. So the likelihood is that obviously there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of the stuff we might have heard of is probably already being done and put to bed. And by put to bed, I mean discarded, not an option. And the stuff we haven't heard will be the things that probably will go ahead in the next year or so. But it's going to be a little while till we see those come to fruition. I think the next kind of acquisitions will probably be studios that are working hand in hand with Xbox and have done for quite some time. ZeniMax was one of those, as obviously they've worked with Xbox since they brought the first version of their game to Xbox OG, way back with Elder Scrolls, Oblivion, of course. Sorry, Morrowind. And that's why. That's a long-standing relationship, and it made sense to the outside, to people who haven't been in the gaming sector for 2 minutes. They probably don't understand that. Like, some people just assume, oh, they just did it to take exclusives away. Well, no, they've worked pretty much hand in hand with each other and discussing things, and helped them bring their game over to consoles for the first time, and more for the last 20 years. It's quite a strong relationship. And I think they cemented that when they had that talk. So, yeah, I would say acquisition season is definitely still going, but that season's probably about 24 months or 36 months long. Sorry. It's a good few years. The acquisition season's a long one. But we shall see. We shall see.
We shall indeed. Anyone wants to add something to that, or should we move to the next topic from September that I want to discuss with Ains?
It's a dangerous game if I start talking about
Yeah,
acquisition.
exactly. That's why I want to skip you without
He
being
likes, he
rude.
likes his
Yeah,
fun
no, I
speculation.
understand.
He likes his fun speculation.
I literally put down in my notes. It says here,
Don't go to math.
try to skip boom and math. Okay,
I
and then it's what we do. Okay, thank you. September 10th, the Epic versus Apple lawsuit ended, and Apple can't block links to third-party payment systems anymore. And that was kind of a surprise to me, actually, because it has a lot of impact on the gaming industry, not just the console side of things. Of course, mobile is impacted heavily. Xbox, of course, with their xCloud streaming service, but all the other streaming services, Luna, Stadia, etc., are also impacted by this. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're talking about another thing that goes beyond simple gaming interest, like you said, right? This is more of a kind of corporate tax structure thing. There's a lot of implications here. I have to say, good on Epic. As much it's weird. I mean, at the end of the day, all of these debates and lawsuits and everything that comes down with these major corporations is about money. I mean, it's always about money. And so we can applaud Epic for this, whereas in other times we may, be harsh on Epic for other reasons. But one thing Tim Sweeney at Epic has been big on for his entire career, whether you like him or not, is he's very much a proponent of being kind of open source, meaning that from a coding and development and OS and gaming perspective, he preaches about things being open to work with one another, right? Which is why in the past he's actually had a pretty big opposition to Microsoft, because Microsoft was very much a kind of closed off wall in their previous generation, not console generations, but you know what I mean, as a corporate structure in their software. Whereas now they're going the other direction, and Tim Sweeney is supportive of that. So I thought it was kind of interesting that Epic, using those Fortnite bucks to take Apple to court, right? And basically
you gotta have balls to do that, to be honest.
I mean, yeah. Apple is and Microsoft are the two richest corporations the world has ever seen, right? They just are. I mean, they're in another league entirely. And to take Apple to court, especially with something as powerful, not just as Apple as a company, but with the App Store, it's. I mean, that's literally that's the major leagues.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway, like I said, don't want to get too on about it, but I think it was important. I think it is important that when it comes to a lot of these things, we do have more freedom, because as we've all kind of keep mentioning, right, the gaming industry will continue to expand. Excuse me. There's going to be more games than ever. There are more developers, publishers, applications, kind of platforms, and that's going to continue. And it's critical that, especially for us as consumers, that we have kind of the option for interacting with those games in as many ways as possible, without all these kind of major corporations being able to divvy up and force us down certain channels, which essentially is what Apple has done. So very important thing here. I'm glad that while it wasn't like a slam dunk win for Apple by any sense of the word, there was a finding in the case that is significant, and I think will have implications further down the line. So another one of those, it seems like there was a big year for these kind of major impactful things across the gaming industry. And I think that just goes to further show that gaming is not only bigger than ever, but there's a bigger spotlight on gaming than ever, right? There's a lot of eyes on it now. And what we're seeing is, as the money comes in and the corporate companies come in to get a piece of the pie, you're going to see more and more stuff like this going forward.
Also, it's because of the distribution of games is changing as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they're all trying to figure out the logistics of the legalities and who's going to get what piece of what pie with this new structure, right? So they're all fighting over that pie right now.
Yeah, it's always money. Always money.
Always the money. But you put it together very well. Couldn't have said it better. It is this overarching impact that it has on gaming as the industry. And gaming is not just we on our channels talk about console gaming mostly, but it's just more than that these days. It's mobile, it's streaming services, it's everything. And yeah, the bigger the pie gets, the bigger the fights will get, no doubt. Anyone else wants to add something? Because then we move to October, another crazy month for gaming. We got
October was a good month.
it really was. It really was. I have to shout out Hertog Win, who is also in the chat. FIFA 2022 came out, and I want to tell you right here, right now, if I hear you the next time talking on any podcast about FIFA, you get a timeout, dude.
So, as we found out last night, he's stopped playing FIFA 22 now. So
yeah. Good choice on him. Good choice on him. We hope it stays this way.
You just
Good.
red carded him, huh?
Exactly. All right. Then we got the Alan Wake remaster. We got Far Cry 6. We got Metroid Dread, which, shame on me, I haven't played yet. I have yet to start that. Back 4 Blood. Riftbreaker came out. I know, Dutch, you played this extensively.
Yep.
Crisis, the remaster trilogy, came out. Age of Empires 4, probably my most played game this year. My Steam account says 160 hours so far, which reminds me, we could actually change the gameplay to Age of Empires 4. And Riders Republic came out. Guys, take it away. Which game do you want to talk about?
to be honest, I loved both Age of Empires. I grew up on that. I think I've had this conversation with you before. I think Age of Empires 2 is both of our favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely loved it. 3 and Age of Mythology took me away from that a little bit, but 4 is awesome. Absolutely awesome return to form for the studio. I think it's maybe underrated, the score that it got in the end from the wider community. The critical community, I think 81 is probably a low blow for this, because I think it actually does everything that the original Age of Empires did so well, and just does it better. Really, really great game. I'm looking forward to seeing how the mod community gets in on this one and creates some insane game modes and things like they used to.
Yeah, they are already adding content to the game. The studio, it's amazing. By the way, the match you can see right here now is on hard. Yeah, just
so playing in double time. Then
that's why I'm going to have a little hard time here.
Little flex there. So let me ask you guys a question, if you don't mind, because I've stepped away from RTS games for years now. You know how those genres you love at some point in your life, and then you find yourself like, I just don't get these anymore. But I've heard nothing but good things about Age of Empires 4, but I have no idea how complex it is in terms of like control schemes. Is there any way this game comes to console?
I personally think yes. Personally,
well, nothing has been confirmed officially.
Right.
The very well-known insider Klobrille, he said that they are actively working on a port.
Okay.
And the controls are actually not that complex. I could see them do that. They have done it with Halo Wars 2, which worked pretty well on the controller, in my opinion. And I think this one is even a little bit simpler in terms of its controls.
Okay.
Yeah.
The thing I would think of is actually the Command and Conquer games on the 360, or like Supreme Commander on the 360, because there was RTS games back then that worked on console, even though they weren't mainstream. They people that like RTS that gamed on console had really liked it. Also, another one, Lord of the Rings: Battle for Middle-earth 2. They all had decent control schemes that were easy to pick up and learn if you were invested in that game. I think this could do it too.
I think that the biggest issue with this on consoles would be the group aspect, because Age of Empires 4 heavily relies on you grouping your units together, and so that you have quick access through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And that is obviously missing on the controller. Halo Wars 2 had the same thing. They had that a little wheel where you could choose your groups then. That actually worked pretty well. And if they can adapt something like that...
I think that was like a paintbrush type thing, wasn't it? Where you could just like paintbrush a section. And like anything within that section was a group.
Yeah, and they had a quick
And
button for all units too. I remember that. All
Yeah.
yeah,
units, all
exactly.
units.
All units. And so yeah, I could see that work on consoles. If not, yeah, the specs are actually not that high for that game. If you turn the settings down to low, basically every PC can run it. And
I mean,
I
you
definitely
don't need to do that, Boxy. You've got a PC that can run this on the
Yeah.
highest.
Yeah, true. That what you see here is everything maxed out.
Even my lowly 3060 can do this on max. It's well
Yeah.
optimized. It's a really
It's well
really
optimized,
optimized game.
definitely.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
You mentioned a lot of games for October.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just say Far Cry 6.
Okay.
I'm not the biggest Far Cry guy. I look at those games as kind of silly fun. You know what I mean? I know what I'm getting with those games. They're sandbox games. I really enjoyed Far Cry 6. In my opinion, I think it's one of, if not the best Far Cries, in the sense of it gives you that sandbox. It gives you a beautiful world. It's well optimized. I had no issues playing it or bugs. And yet the characters I felt were a little more endearing than especially 4 and 5, personally.
Yeah.
I just felt it was pretty good. And obviously, the antagonist, Esposito, who played really well. And yeah, I really enjoyed that game. I thought it was a good Far Cry game for sure.
Absolutely. I did not enjoy 5 that much. I thought the antagonist there was kind of boring. The setting was boring, and the open world just felt too empty. But this time, I had a blast playing through it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
and yet another RTS for me, Riftbreaker. Like you mentioned, I was playing that thing for hours, and it was one of them games that just grabbed you. And it was such a strange game because you essentially are just one mech, unlike Age of Empires, for instance, where you build up a civilization, etc. You are a mech that goes to this foreign, randomly generated planet. You've got a set of objectives that you need to do to explore it and find certain points and build up that particular planet. Then you've got to pave it down, add turrets and things to protect your main base, but then continue to explore. So it's all about really just building up your home bit to survive every night. But it just does it so well, and it's really easy to pick up and play. And shout out to Acer as well from Game On Daily. He did a really cool stream, or a few streams actually, because it has built-in Twitch integration where you can get the community to rain down hell on you in the game, so they can choose. Every now and again, it'll say, okay, well, now you're going to put a massive tornado onto the map and like wreck his base. Or you can give him unlimited resources. So do you want to wreck his base, or do you want to give him unlimited resources? And depending on what you chose on Twitch would happen in the game. So it's got really good community integration as well with that game that I'd really like to see more games take advantage of, specifically these online games. It was just done really well optimized, really good pacing, nice and pretty. A surprise hit for me, I think. Surprise, but again, another indie hit. Really good.
I heard good things about it, same as you, Dutch. I haven't played it, but I spoke to multiple people who played it. Travis on our show reviewed it for IGN and gave it a good score as well. I mean, I heard really good things.
Yeah, I have yet to try it too. I haven't played it.
If you love
Math,
Age of
what's
Empires,
it out?
Boxy, you will love Riftbreaker.
Yeah.
I at some point I have to simply delete Age of Empires 4 off of my hard drive because it really stops me from playing other games. Yeah. What else? Metroid. Anyone played that?
Yeah, I beat Metroid.
Oh.
I don't know how much to say on it. Metroid's interesting because it's a very good game. It's a very good 2D Metroid. And I enjoyed my time with it. But it felt like, I don't know the easiest way to say it. When I played that game, especially coming off the other games we've talked about, right? It felt like I was going back in time 2 generations, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but that game could have been done on a DS from 10 years ago. And again, that's not meant to be a bad thing. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. It was a very good game, but it didn't do anything to really kind of wow me. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. Good game, good mechanics. It played well. And some of the moments with Samus were really cool, the cinematics. But I was just like, I finished it and I was like, okay, good game.
Yeah,
You know what it
gotcha.
is? It's a real shame. I slightly feel for Nintendo developers as a whole because they're held back by Nintendo's
Oh,
choice to
yes.
rely on old hardware.
I know, and it's
And it's not
Um,
just it's
tough.
the handheld hardware too is the only
Yeah.
option, right? So
Exactly.
you don't
Yeah.
have the powerful. If Nintendo, okay, imagine Metroid Dread had come out and Nintendo had something as powerful even as the Series S. Because the reason I bring up Series S, it's the same price as the Switch,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
What could that game look like?
Yeah. I mean, well, you
You
look
know?
at Will of the Wisps, right? Like Ori, like there you go.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, it could have been kind of mind blowing visually, and it's not even just the visuals.
It's a
It felt
technical
like
aspect as well, though. It's what they can do from a technical aspect on
Yeah.
the game that's held back by 7-year-old mobile hardware.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we don't have to stay on it, but it was a very good game. It didn't land for me. Like I see it on a lot of Game of the Year lists, and for me, it's not up there personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard a lot of similar things what you said, Ains, from people I simply trust, where I know they have similar taste than I do, and that's why I kind of held off and just wait for a sale. It's kind of on my wait for sale list.
Yeah.
All right. We didn't get any bigger news in October. For some reason, a major news item from September actually slipped in my notes into the October section. That's why I missed it in September, and I definitely want to come back to that real quick. And that was the PlayStation event that happened actually on September 9th. We had that big PlayStation stream. Basically, their substitute event since they didn't join E3. Yeah, we got a couple of great things to see there. We had the God of War gameplay there. God of War 2. We had the announcement of Spider-Man, the next Spider-Man game, and Wolverine was there. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts here, guys. Ainsley, let's hear it. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this PlayStation showcase?
Yeah, I really liked it. I think PlayStation. It feels like as we're at the end of the year now, it feels like PlayStation's been rather quiet. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There just hasn't been they haven't had any major first party release, and they haven't really said a lot over the past few months, and that's fine. I mean, it goes in ebbs and flows, right? So I really enjoyed this. God of War Ragnarok is obviously going to be kind of a bombshell when it hits, and I really liked what was shown of it. I really love 2018 God of War, and this looks to what I'm seeing out of Horizon and God of War, and some people will not like this, some people will like it. I'm kind of more on the like it camp. Is they look like smaller evolutions of their prior games, right? So God of War 2018 was a complete kind of spiritual reboot for Kratos in the series, whereas Ragnarok is going to continue that. Obviously, visually on the PS5, I'm sure it's going to be incredible, and it's going to probably add some new gameplay elements, etc. But it's not going to reinvent the wheel. And I think that Forbidden West with Horizon's going to do the same thing come February for Horizon. And I'm good with that because I love both of those games. Spider-Man 2, the announcement of that coming, it was a no-brainer. I mean, Spider-Man's the best-selling first-party game PlayStation has. The IP is monstrous. It's only going to be bigger by the time Spider-Man 2 comes out, so that's going to be another bombshell. And then Wolverine was, even though many of us preach against these 20-second CGI trailers that we hate, where you just get a logo,
for games
right?
that are 3-5 years
exactly
out.
a generation away.
Things. Let's go.
So I mean, many of it's Mav, it's funny, right? Because many of us say, "Oh, we want to see gameplay," and then as soon as we see the trailer, we're like, "Oh, we're so excited,"
Yeah.
So it's like, I personally, I'm not a huge Marvel guy. And I'm not even a huge Spider-Man guy, but Wolverine more speaks to me, right? So if Insomniac can do Wolverine the same justice they've done to Spider-Man, then I'm in big time.
Yeah.
So all this showed me is that, and I think Boom said it earlier, is at the end of the day, both PlayStation and Xbox, as kind of our core two consoles, are doing fantastic things, and the future is so damn bright for both of them in terms of IPs and releases, and it's just we're going to be just swimming in amazing games. This generation is going to be something to behold. When we do our when we do our year in gaming 2026, And we
Oh, man.
look back on this generation, it's going to be something special, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This generation has the potential to be the best generation ever. There's
Yeah.
just so much on the horizon, and yeah, you said it. I actually felt bad when I put together these show notes because there were really not that many PlayStation news. I thought about it. Why is that? The only thing I can come up with is probably because they don't have to generate the excitement right now. They can produce enough consoles. They're selling every console they have. They don't have games releasing actually this year, so they can't promote those, and that's probably why they didn't announce too much this over the course of this year, because they simply don't have to stay in the news. That will hopefully change in 2022 because I really want PlayStation to generate a little bit more excitement, because they have a very good roadmap ahead. We all know they have a strong first party portfolio, and they have always been very good in laying out their roadmap. We all remember the E3, was it 2016, 17, where they just showed banger after banger after banger, and they basically laid out the entire roadmap for the rest of the generation. Yeah, Days Gone is coming, God of War is coming, Spider-Man is coming, this is coming. And I think Microsoft took that page out of Sony's playbook because now they have laid out their roadmap very well. Yeah, they've announced like 18 first-party games that are coming right now over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. Yeah, that's insane. And Sony has at least announced now 5, 6, I think, first-party games, but we know that also Naughty Dog and everyone else is working on stuff. Ben Studio is working on something, so good things are coming. And like you said, Ains, 2022 is going to be fantastic. They have Horizon Zero Dawn, which is one of my most anticipated games. I really liked the first one.
Me too. Me too.
And well, Gran Turismo is probably not my type of game, but God of War 2, fingers crossed it will come out. I still have my doubts on that, but
Me too.
We shall see. It's definitely super anticipated. So yeah, I agree. Does anyone else want to add something here?
You have to give a massive shout out to Insomniac for keeping PlayStation's momentum this year. Just the entire studio needs a raise. I don't know how they managed to pull off that many things coming out in such a short pace of time.
They are really well managed.
And then go on to effectively have an Insomniac and Friends showcase for the PlayStation showcase. Because it was yet again more games, mostly by Insomniac, both future and current. And then, of course, like I say, we've got your traditional God of War, which you kind of expected to see more of, and things like that. But I'm intrigued to see what they've got the other studios working on. I would have liked to see more about some of their future from that showcase. It was great to see more from Insomniac, but I want to see more than just Insomniac producing now. We know what they're capable of. We know they're an amazing studio. I know they want to keep the hype going. Specifically with Wolverine, it was great to just unveil it, but that game's years away. We're talking 2025. Obviously, we know that the new Spider-Man is going to be 23. So beyond that, it's going to be at least 24, 25 till you see Wolverine. So it's quite some time away. And I really want to see what they've got Naughty Dog working on. But obviously, we've got a big feeling that whatever they do for their E3 in 2022 will obviously involve these other studios to show off what they're working on. So, like you rightfully said, though, the future is massively bright for fans of any of these. And increasingly so for fans or gamers as a whole, because both companies now are fully invested on bringing their titles now across to PC for more people to play it, and or to mobile, so then even more people can play it there. It has never been better for gamers as a whole, and if you are a fan of games, as in the wider sense, then you've got an abundance, and we've seen that through the tail end of this year. It's just been non-stop new content, and we've just haven't got the time to play everything. I wish I did, but but never mind. But yeah, it's awesome to see, and again, looking forward to seeing what next year can do, because 2021's ended up being pretty much one of the best that there has been for some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Best. We've said it many times. It's probably the best time to be a gamer. There's just so much excitement around gaming right now. And that brings me to November, because Mav's favorite game launched in November, Just Dance 2022.
Let's go. Gotta get moving, baby.
Then we had Call of Duty Vanguard, Forza Horizon 5, Skyrim, the special edition, Skyrim released again, and Battlefield. Any thoughts on one of those games? Because I have something else we need to discuss from November. So
quick discussion on both COD and Battlefield. They were in a rush to get those games out. Not the developers. I think if you'd ask the developers, they would not have wanted the games to go out in the way that they went out, because they were both bad. And there is no underlying that both of those games were bad, really bad, from a technical perspective, not from anything else. From a technical perspective, both of those needed more time in the oven. The pressure that they obviously felt from the higher ups, and this is another thing I want the industry to get away from. Thankfully, Microsoft aren't doing it now. They have the ability now, and this is another story entirely, but they have the ability now on Xbox's front, because they've got so many studios and so many different development groups within each studio as well. They've given them self-breathing space. So if they've got 3 or 4 things that are ready to go 1 year, and 2 or 3 others aren't quite ready to go, they don't have to push that on the release. So they can say, okay, you just take a little bit more time. We've got another 4 things already that are good to go, so we'll use these ones. Whereas these the Activisions and again the Blizzards and everything else in between, and the EAs, they are their own portfolio, and they higher ups, the suits and the shareholders dictate when these games release. We've seen that with Cyberpunk, unfortunately, like I say, last year. The suits dictated and the developers took the rap. And the industry as a whole needs to get away from that. Stop trying to do it. They will surely understand that if they just let the developers have their time, then the games will perform better and they will make more money. If you rush something out the door, it will not make you more money. It will make you less money in the long run, because the game is broken, and then it already leaves a bad taste in the gamer's mouth, and they will not return to it. There's quite a few people that have played these games, have played it for a few hours, and have said, you know what it is, I'm done. I am putting this to bed. And then they've hopped over straight away, and then Halo releases, and the release of Halo multiplayer in the same month was just...
We get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Really, really, but before we discuss Halo by itself, because of that, it made those other games look even worse than what they were if they were just released by themselves, and Halo retained releasing just in December.
Yeah.
But my key things is them specific games, they needed more time in the oven, and unfortunately they didn't get it.
I agree completely. I think Call of Duty is a perfect example there, because Call of Duty is traditionally one of the best performing games each year. Tons of people play that game. This time, I didn't even realize the game came out. Usually, my timeline reminds me of every major game release, because someone is just playing the game. No one played Call of Duty. I haven't seen it for 2 or 3 days after launch. A single tweet in my timeline, and it just told me, okay, there has to be something wrong with the game.
It's crazy. It's still #1 selling game for for the month.
It's the casual gamer market.
40%. I think what I saw, I might have been UK, so this is UK, but 40% lower sales compared to last year's Call of Duty. Still the #1 selling game.
It's insane.
Shall I give you a mad statistic here? Previously, one of the worst played and most hated Call of Duties, Ghosts, had a higher rating by critical reviewers than Vanguard.
Wow.
By a significant amount.
Yeah.
Uh, Ghosts had a 78. Vanguard has a 73.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you touched on it, Dutch, around the pressure to release.
They've
November
got a
was
lower
weird for
user
me. It was
score,
like
by the way, as well. The user scores 4.4 for Ghosts and 3.7 for Vanguard.
I don't think you won either of those scores, honestly. But November was a tale of two tales or stories for me. So behind everyone knows Halo Nut, right? And I love Gears as well. But behind those games, Battlefield is my favorite shooter. I love Battlefield.
Yeah.
I have thousands of hours into it. And I was lucky enough to get in the first alpha for 2042. And when I got in with one friend and we got in together, and I was very excited. I was hoping this to be the return of Battlefield. And I got in, and after about half an hour, maybe not even that long, we were kind of talking on the mic, and I was like, is this happening? Like, is this real? Like, this is what we're playing right now? Because it was just broken, completely broken, almost unplayable. And so, I was under embargo, right? So I couldn't really say anything. And then we get to beta, and the beta is slightly better, but still a mess. And I was like, this game's just not ready, man. They cannot release this game this fall. And, we see this 3-week delay, which is meaningless in the scope of dev time. And it's just like, this game is going to launch in bad shape. And it did. And now they're paying the price. And it's, to what Dutch said, it's just frustrating because there's a foundation here that could be excellent. And the game's just not baked enough. And it's just like, I swear, just give the developers the time they need to finish this game. Battlefield is a gigantic IP. Why would you let it come out and flounder like it has? And now you've tarnished the name even more. It's just very frustrating to me, and it's annoying to me to see Battlefield in this state.
I will say this: I've actually personally been really enjoying Battlefield 2042.
Okay.
So when it came out, it has bugs, right? And yes, games need to be finished when they come out, right? But I also remember back every Battlefield game I've ever played at launch is also never been finished. And the fact that the servers actually worked, I was amazed because I've never played a Battlefield game at launch before where I could actually play.
That's true.
And so that was pretty amazing. However, the progress that was from that beta build to the launch build, they had made such a huge stride there.
That's
because
true.
all of the graphical glitches and the artifacting and all that crazy stuff was gone at that point. But you still have like some weird glitches and some weird bugs. Like the loadout bug is the one thing that still bothers me. But if you play that, there's just for devil's advocate here, right? Okay, this Battlefield also has more multiplayer content than we've ever had in a Battlefield game, also at launch, because you have the whole conquest mode. Then you also have the whole Portal experience.
Portal's awesome, by the way.
It's amazing, which has all these other Battlefield experiences plus all these other maps, and you have more modes ever before at launch as well. And it does have its issues, and I can't speak to last gen. Like I can't speak to Xbox One, PS4, and lower end PCs and stuff like that. But on Series X, the only main issues I've actually occurred personally is the loadout bug, where you get in and your loadout just doesn't work, and you have to go in and reselect your items and stuff. And then they got a lot of missing features, right? That's the thing, missing features like the voice. There's no voice chat, missing progression stuff, missing things like that. But those don't really bother me that much, because I'm sitting there just trying to enjoy the game. There's a lot of things in Battlefield that are great. Like the first time when we went in and it was on that snow map, and then you see the ice and the snow just start falling off the cliff as you're shooting it with the helicopter, and then I was playing with Pong and Steel and some other friends, and we were just having a great time on launch day playing in Portal. So there's a lot of stuff there that you can have fun with. And the other thing is something that DICE and EA has proven before with Battlefield is they are going to keep putting in the work and turn it into a good experience. I have no doubt about that, especially after the recent news of their further investments into Battlefield and the moves that they made with Vince Zampella, putting him in charge of the franchise. Different than Call of Duty, which is like one-off. They're not going to support it anymore after it launches. They're going to move on to the next project. and Battlefield has a longer life, and you're going to see it transform. So it has a lot better chance, and they also have a better foundation on what they built with this game. So
Yeah, I was
I
going to
give
say,
them a
speaking
little
on
bit
Call
more
of
of
Duty
a
there as well, which is a great point. They've already moved on, of course, because they went straight to the Warzone map, which is also then took another
Yep.
huge negative news point there because that is apparently broken as well. So great.
Mav, I think you're exactly right. I think you make very fair points. There, like I said, there is a good foundation here, and you're absolutely right that they've made very positive moves with the core of what's supporting Battlefield 2042, and that game will live on for years and only get better, right?
Yeah.
And they've already made a lot, actually, recent updates and changes since launch already.
There's no doubt I'll be playing more of 2042 as the progress gets better.
Yes.
The key thing for me that I didn't like, which has kept me from playing it primarily, is the UI. The like you mentioned, the weapons, the way that you have to do your loadouts every time, and they're never fixed. And sometimes when you try to put them on, then they revert back to the previous one, or they don't attach at all. That it's just a clunky, very clunky. Doesn't really work as intended. But again, the UI, the actual main menu where you're getting people into it, and the lobby is just such a weird place to be. And then, of course, in the final one, as you know, is being restricted specifically on the normal maps, not so much Portal, I do believe, but the normal maps being restricted to four player, and not being able to have several groups of people in there as opposed to just the four, locked on four, when it's a big, 64v64 map or something like that. Should be able to have more people in than that, surely, when you've got these massive servers. So it's my key things on so much with the game itself. When I played it in its previous state before it launched, there was a few issues with bullet registration and things that I didn't so much like. Sometimes specifically with snipers, like assault rifles seem to work fine, but with sniper rifles, you could shoot someone, it would go straight through them and not damage them. You'd be like,
that's already been addressed with the hit detection is one of the first things they did.
Great, because that was really bad. I think both of you probably knew that from the beta.
Yeah,
like bullet detection was horrific.
Yeah.
So that's good to hear.
Well, and I think we'll get to it, and we don't have to keep staying on Battlefield. I think what made it worse, as Arch kind of alluded to, is that when Halo Infinite, which is so good mechanically, releases at the same time, and you go from Halo Infinite to Battlefield, you're like, what the hell is going on here? It's night and day. So I started this by saying there was a tale of two stories in November. So real quick, the other tale of November was Forza Horizon 5. I still say Forza. I reviewed that game, and it's the second game in history I've given a 10 to. And of course, 10 does not mean perfection. It just means it's kind of a genre-changing experience. And I feel that Forza hit that note to where Horizon 5 is arguably the greatest racing game ever made. It is just a fantastic experience. And just today, actually, I don't know if you're going to mention this, Arch, but IGN named Horizon 5 Game of the Year. That's a big, IGN's the biggest media gaming company in the world. That's a big award. So big recognition for them. So congrats to the team at Playground, knocked it out of the park. And
well deserved.
100%. That game is incredible.
It is. I've heard so many times the phrasing, it's a CarPG, and I really love that. It has, like you said, it is a genre-defining game. They definitely didn't invent themselves completely new, but when you look from where they started with Forza Horizon 3, then to 4, and now at 5, they kind of have perfected that formula, and I'm a big fan. It's a fantastic game. Guys, with a little bit the eye on the clock, we are already closing in almost 3 hours. Even though
we still got to talk about Halo. Oh my god,
the Halo talk is yet to come.
I'll tape my mouth. I'm gonna tape over my mouth.
Okay. In November we had, of course, the Xbox 20th anniversary. With that, we got the announcement that the Halo multiplayer release right now, early release of a game. I can't remember that this has been done before. Really awesome. I don't want to get into Halo. We get to that in a second when we talk about the game of the year, obviously. But what also launched with the 20th anniversary was the Xbox Museum. Has anyone visited that digital Xbox Museum? You all did it.
Yep.
So
Yes.
that is good.
I'm ashamed.
Because it really was an awesome thing for the fans to kind of visit your own history on Xbox. Unfortunately, my account is relatively new. It is only 10 years or 11 years by now old, because my first Xbox account got banned. I think I told that story before. I switched regions to the UK. I think it was to buy Wolfenstein, and then they
Oh wow.
scrapped my account. So that's why it's only 10 or 11 years old.
Oh, come on,
Nevertheless,
Archimedes. It was all that trash talking you did in the Call of Duty lobby.
Yeah.
Be honest, let's go.
You caught me. It was either Doom or Wolfenstein that I bought. I think it was Wolfenstein. So yeah, that was at the end of the 360 generation, and then they banned my account because of that. Nevertheless, I got a pretty good idea what I played the most. Because of that, it said Arkham City was my first Xbox game, which is technically not true, but with this account, definitely. But I want to hear from you guys. What was your most played game ever? Because mine actually surprised me.
Who do you want to
Do you
go
guys
first?
remember?
Look, Dutch
I
has covered
remember.
his face.
Me too.
No,
I don't
I
wanna admit
remember and I
mine.
know.
Okay,
I take no shame in it. Take absolutely no
Okay.
shame in it. My game of the kind of for the because it only counts for the 360. I wasn't on live on Xbox, the original Xbox. I was
Okay.
too young to be live on that one.
Yeah.
I had originally played Halo all the way through that. That was pretty much my main game. However, on 360, the one that got the most playtime was Minecraft when it first hit at consoles.
Okay.
From a creativity standpoint, for me, I've always loved creating things and making things. So when that eventually hit console after PC, and I remember trying to run Minecraft on the PC at the time, and because of it ran on like JavaScript, it was such the most poorly optimized game on PC. You needed some kind of weapon to get this thing to run properly and at any good frame rate on PC. For such a basic game, it took a lot of graft on PC to get running, so I didn't. And when it hit console, I put in so many hours with that, and it was more on a community aspect, because I would sit there with my friends and they would do exactly the same thing, and we wouldn't be in the same game, but we'd both be creating our own worlds, but just talking and catching up with each other, like how was your day, how was work, blah blah
Sure,
blah.
Cool. Yeah.
And just going through it all whilst making our own worlds, and eventually they unlocked like the online portion of it, and then we were jumping into each other's worlds and seeing what it was all about and things like that. So I spent an unbelievable amount of time on Minecraft on 360. That was my most played game by a long shot, because I was there day and night making these worlds up from scratch and learning the mechanics and how to use redstone and make big doors open, and then just it was a really great period of time in gaming as well, like such a simplistic time. But that was mine, 100%.
Nice. Good one. No shame in that. Vince, what was yours?
I
remember?
can't remember now. There's two that I have that are well above anything else. The first, believe it or not, is Smite. So I Smite was in beta on Xbox, about 6 years ago. And so because it's a free-to-play ongoing MOBA game, right? I have my best friend in real life who's back. I moved away years ago, but we still play over live. And so that was our go-to game for just years. And we would play, every weekend for hours at a time. So I have something like 1,100 hours in Smite, just because it's a constant go-to game. As Dutch said, you're just catching up, shooting the shit with your friend and playing a game that just continually evolves, right? And so I think games like that, which are games as a service at the end of the day, can be really good for that sort of thing, because there's always new content. There's always something new to do. And it's a good way to just stay in touch with friends. And then similarly, my other game was PUBG. So I think everyone knows I'm a very competitive guy. I play a lot of shooters, and PUBG was one that I really got into, and me and my friends just played that an awful lot. I know Pat was in the chat earlier, who's a hardcore PUBG guy.
Hardcore, yeah.
Yeah. And so for a period of time, I was kind of like him, where I would play multiple days per week for hours on end.
Yep.
And just play with a group, and same thing, right? You're playing a competitive space, but it's really about just playing with your friends.
Yeah.
So if you added up all the Halo time or Gears time, it would encompass more than PUBG or Smite, but singular games, it was Smite and PUBG for me.
Nice. Math, what was yours?
I logged back in just to reconfirm that I wasn't seeing things. Now I have to take this also and let you guys know the first almost 3 years of Xbox, I switched accounts because back then you got the 3-month codes in the boxes and you could use those to create new accounts. No achievements or anything. So I regret doing that now because I would love to see that. However, I saved quite a bit of money for almost 3 years by doing that. So without taking into account that Halo 2 is not really included in this, because it by far would be my most played game.
Too.
I'm sad to say that my most played game is Fortnite. Yes, it was.
I have to admit, I have never played Fortnite.
Really?
No.
So, wow.
Like it's one of those games that just like, okay, I'm playing this game. I just pop on Fortnite, play like a few rounds or whatever, and I got really into it. And like the year after, like the early Fortnite, first 2 years or so, I was really into it. There wasn't a lot on Xbox back then as well, launching for exclusives, So I was like playing a lot of Madden, Fortnite, Call of Duty, a lot of that kind of stuff, But I have, I will say, I do have 1,800 games played.
Oh, nice.
And I want to know what it would have been if I had those 3 years. Yeah, I'm missing those 3 years,
Yeah.
But
yeah, good stuff. For me, well, if my older account would be included, it would have probably been either Halo 2 or Halo 3 because I spent a ridiculous amount of time in those games. But those were not included, and actually, I'm proud of my most played game. It's The Witcher 3. I have 4 entire playthroughs, including the DLC. With that game.
That's a lot. I know how long that game takes as well.
Yeah, I can't remember how many hours it's been, but
I can guarantee you're going to be doing playthrough 5 when the next gen patch comes out.
100%. I actually bought the Game of the Year edition for that because then I get to get the achievements all over again because it's different save file.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
So. Yeah, definitely. And I have an entire playthrough on the Switch as well, by the way, for that game.
Wow.
So
I was going to say, you beat me. I'm only at 2.5 of that. But I imported the Game of the Year Steelbook edition from Poland.
Ooh.
So I have the Steelbook you could only get in Poland for that game because I love Witcher so much.
Nice.
Yeah, so I respect that, Arch, for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of Xbox Museum, do you guys remember this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice. All right, guys. We are almost at the end of the year. In December, we had basically Halo came out. Yeah. And then Chorus and The Gunk. I haven't started The Gunk yet. It's waiting for me. I'll start that tomorrow. But the thing I want to talk about briefly is the Game Awards happened. And we got a couple of news out there. We have seen Hellblade 2 gameplay looking insanely good. Probably the first true next-gen showcase in terms of graphics. But also Horizon Forbidden West looked awesome. Suicide Squad gameplay. A Plague Tale 2, Crossfire X. Wonder Woman got a teaser. Star Wars Eclipse, and many, many more. The thing is that I want to bring up as the last discussion topic for today, before we talk about Game of the Year, our Game of the Year choices, is are the Game Awards actually relevant? Because it kind of felt to me like it was an advertisement show and not an award ceremony. The winners didn't get the time really to properly say thank you. There were definitely way more advertisements and trailers shown than actual reward stuff. And the awards themselves always have this controversy around it. I think it's no secret what my opinion is. I think the Game Awards lack the transparency to be recognized as a proper Oscar-like award ceremony. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Are these awards actually relevant, or is it more of an advertisement show these days?
Personally,
Yeah.
I completely agree with you as well. It was the way that it is done. He's leering more away from the awards and more towards the unveilings. And I can appreciate what he's doing in terms of the level, obviously the stature he's got in the industry, and obviously being able to show off these games for the first time. I think it comes to a point though where he needs to either find a fine balance or turn them into two different things entirely. Really honor these awards with the stature that they're meant to be, and the gravity that they're meant to hold. These are meant to be the be all end all awards of the year. These are meant to be like the thing that everybody looks towards to win from these studios. And even the game of the year, like Joseph Fares for It Takes Two, obviously got a very quick kind of stage announcement and then straight off. But all the smaller ones like Forza Horizon and things like that was like, oh, well done, you've won, goodbye. And
Yeah, exactly.
Halo, for instance, Halo, the Player's Voice Award, which was meant to be the public's chance to give it, they were like, and Halo's won the Player's Choice Award. So next, we're going to see the. It was like, what is the these awards aren't actually getting recognition. They're just like, here, you've won this award, and next trailer. So he's either got to find. I think he's got to find a fine balance between the two. Of course, it says sure he'll do what he wants, but and that wasn't just us that's noticed this either. Like the game, the awards part of it took a backseat to the advertisements and the trailers, and it should be more on showing what these devs are capable of and celebrating their achievements and what they've put out throughout the year. And of course, the orchestrated bits are nice and things like that. But then, like I say, outside of the orchestrated bits, you're not giving the devs a chance to really stand there and celebrate things properly.
Yeah.
It needs to have a good balance between, right, okay, here's an award, and do it properly for each segment, and then show a couple of trailers in between the awards, and then go on so on and so forth. But like people mentioned, like I caught the first half of it and then caught up on the rest of it afterwards. But the first half was trailers and awards. That was good.
Yeah.
The second half was trailers, advertisements, trailers, advertisement, trailers, advertisement, 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 advertisement. It was just ads all the way till the end. He does need to refine that show and give more respect to the developers, I think, at the end of the day. If you're going to celebrate them properly. We appreciate the game trailers, but if you're going to be doing something like that, specifically the level of trailers that he's managed to gain for this, which was some high level kind of announcements, either do a Game Awards show separate to the trailers, or vice versa. Just do your own kind of gaming trailer kind of announcement show,
announcement event at the end of the year.
Yeah, like an end year kind of E3 type thing with him, and I'm sure you would love to do that. And then have the award ceremony separate, like an actual award ceremony where you show off a few other little trailers in between.
Yeah,
perfect. But yeah, just give a little bit more credit to the developers and allow them to speak more about something that they've put years and years of their hard time behind, as we've seen from the Xbox documentary. Even just the creation of Xbox itself killed relationships off. And I'm sure there's quite a few developers even to this day that have worked so hard on these games that they're losing relationships to it, and people are things like that. So if they're putting in such hard work to do it, then give them the time on the stage to be celebrated properly.
they're in a tough spot because it's okay. So here's the thing. Originally, trying to get this thing kicked off, you got to have an idea that you're just going to get people behind it. So the idea of
Of
that is
course.
the awards show, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But what you're going to do is you need sponsors and you want to try and drive excitement. So you're going to go and pitch like, hey, sponsor this, or we're going to showcase your video. We're going to get viewers. And that tends to grow. Okay.
Yeah.
The first clue that this is all about marketing is when it's held. If there's no credibility to the award show that doesn't include all the games that release for the year. Period.
Fair.
So without
I
that
couldn't agree more.
credibility to begin with, you just got to go into it knowing, okay, all these awards are kind of meaningless because the games that are going to come out in the next month and a half are not really probably even going to be included in next year's award show, right? Because they always get forgotten about or left in the back burner. So as far as that goes, going into it, knowing that there's no credibility behind it at all, I still enjoy the show, and I'm glad that it exists because it puts a mainstream focus on gaming, right? And it has grown into a large spectacle that you're having bigger announcements like Microsoft and PlayStation and third-party companies are going out and using this as a huge platform to showcase games, which in turn turns it into a bigger spectacle, which in turn will end up bringing more attention to those developers that may have gotten overlooked because they do have more eyes on them. They need to find a better balance with this, but can they move it out of November without those marketing dollars, without the Christmas money, putting forth all these people trying to sell their games coming out over the holidays? I don't know if this would even exist.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like
I see the point.
catch-22, So can we get rid of esports team of the year, get rid of esports coach of the year, right? Get rid of the content creators of the year or whatever. Make it purely about the creators that develop the video games, have less awards so you can spend more time focusing on them. And if you just take a minute or two for each one and only have like 7 or whatever, it will come across like way better than sitting up there in front of a screen when you have a bunch of names going on. Oh, and this guy won this of the year, and this guy won this of the year, and this guy won this of the year. All right, let's run that AMD ad and the Western Digital ad, and then let's get to the next trailer. Yeah, it comes across like as they need to do a better job of putting that together and balancing it, but that's something that they're still figuring out. Overall production value was huge on this thing, right?
Yes.
Best by
absolutely.
far.
True.
So I'm glad it exists. It needs to find a better balance, but it doesn't exist without the bad. But also the bad is also the good. It's why we watch. So it's a catch.
I don't need to speak because Mab just spoke for me.
Yeah,
I mean literally that you touched on everything I was going to say.
Perfect.
So I won't even repeat it. What Mab said.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And
thanks, Ains.
I do not have anything to add as well. Everything's been said, and that brings us to the end of the year. That's been the year in gaming. That have been the major news. That have been the major games. And now, of course, I want to hear a couple of things from you guys. First, I want to hear, what was your biggest disappointment this year? Ains, do you want to go first?
Oof. You know what's funny? I don't know if I should go first because you asked us to prepare this, and I have my game of the year, and I have my kind of list and all these things, and I was trying to think of biggest disappointments, and I am generally a pretty positive person. I take everything in stride, and when a game comes out and it maybe doesn't meet my expectations, it's just like, okay, it's not a big deal to me too much. As we were talking through this show, and I think back for the year and all the great games we've had and everything I've gotten to experience, which was overwhelmingly positive. It's sad to say that I think my biggest disappointment may have been Battlefield. Just because, like I said, I love Battlefield and I put so much time into that franchise, and it just didn't hit with me the way that I was really hoping it would hit. And I was trying to think of other games this year that came out that I was anticipating and didn't land the same way. And I wasn't coming up with a lot. I mean, we haven't talked about Halo, and I'm trying to stop myself because I'll just go on a 20-minute, rant about how much I love Halo. So that hit for me, and we had big surprises like Returnal and Deathloop, which I loved, and Biomutant I loved, and all these games, and most of them really were very positive for me. So I think Battlefield. I'm not a Call of Duty guy, so Vanguard not hitting doesn't matter to me.
Me neither.
So Battlefield was really the one that I was. If I think about big games, I was hoping to really land strong. And Mav, you made some excellent points around what Battlefield does well and the foundation, and I agree with all of them. But it just didn't hit at launch the same way I was hoping it would. And I think that's probably my biggest disappointment. Assuming we're talking about games, right? I think there's things in the industry.
I left it. I asked you to prepare it, and I actually left it open because my biggest disappointment is not a game this year.
Okay, see, so that's a little different then. I think if we're talking about that, just real quick, I would say, and this is about as broad as you can get, but my biggest disappointment would be Nintendo.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh man,
I'm an old guy. I grew up with Nintendo. The nostalgia's real, right? And I think many of us have preached the same thing, where they just every move that they seemingly make just doesn't seem for me nowadays. And it's not that it's wrong. They're selling like hotcakes. Their revenue's highest than ever. They have a rabid fan base, so obviously they're doing something right. But it's not hitting with me. And that, in a way, makes me sad because I have such fond memories of Nintendo. And I wish that they would at least do... Yeah, I wish they would do something that would land with the hardcore gamer. And again, that sounds like a slight at Nintendo, and maybe it is in a way, and I don't mean it that way. But they're just not doing it for me, and it's disappointing. So.
Very good. That's a very good point. Dutch, what was your biggest disappointment?
From a gaming perspective, I've got to agree with Ian's. Battlefield. It was the only game this year that I've had a pre-order in place up until the point I played the beta. I think it was a week or two before it went to launch. And I was not willing to put down at that point, based on what I'd played, the money for that game. Based on its technical issues, and I think the 3-week delay was more of an insult to the developers. I think to expect them to fix what needed to be fixed to a point that it was required in that time frame was more of an insult to the developers than it was to us. That was my disappointment because, again, I'd been playing up until that. I'd went back onto Battlefield 5 and I'd started brushing up my Battlefield skills, and I was like, right, okay, I'm getting ready for this. Like, this one actually looks really good. Previously in the year, we'd said, no, I'm not going to fork out £70 for just a multiplayer-only game, no single player. And then we seen the single-player teaser and the gameplay showed off and things by them, and I was like, actually, this looks really fun. It looks like they're getting back to what we love with Battlefield. And then I played the beta, and I was sorely disappointed. From a technical perspective, like you mentioned, the hit registration's been resolved now, which is great to hear. But it's going to be a little while till I get onto that game when they've had a little bit more time to polish up some of the things that the community are going to feed back to them. But that's my biggest gaming disappointment. From a community disappointment, primarily it's just the way that a lot of the things in the industry has been handled this year. Specifically with the way developers have been treated, whether that be from sexual harassment, whether that be from workplace bullying, whether that be from racism things, whether that be from just literally anything in terms of respecting the developers that work in these companies, whether that be the community having to go at them, whether that be the suits at the top of these companies being liable for the damage that they cause into some of these companies, and that is the biggest disappointment of this year. But it's also a positive that it's eventually come to light so that something can be done. Because if this had never come to light and they were allowed to get away with these things for a moment longer, I dread to think what some of these developers would have to go through for years on end.
Fair.
So yeah,
That's a fair
my
point.
two major ones.
Fair point. Mav, what about you?
So you guys hit on two of the community things, like with Activision and all that stuff, right? And then Ains also bringing up Nintendo, like just I mean, so I'll say one of my personal is letting 3-Bit talk me into buying a Switch again, right? Because it sat on my
That's a
desk
good
for
one.
like 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. I just sold it again. I'm just gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I sold it. Some kid that they can't buy it at the store right now is gonna enjoy it at Christmas.
Sure.
Got close to what we paid for it in the first place. So moving on from the Switch, gaming wise, Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl is complete and utter trash. It is the actual first game I have ever requested a refund for on the Microsoft Store.
Wow.
Okay.
And
Okay.
all
My
those years-
friends talked me into
point.
buying that, and I played it once.
Yeah.
Like,
out of-
I didn't touch
out of
that.
that 1,810 games that I told you guys I had played, that's the only game I have ever requested a refund in the digital store from Microsoft.
Okay.
They granted it, so I'm happy now. Other than that,
That's good.
I mean, what a great year, So
Yes,
it's hard to
it's
be
been
too
a great
negative.
year,
Yeah.
and let's talk about what surprised us the most. But before we do that, I want to briefly mention one super chat coming again from Dave Ramos. He said, "You folks can include yourself in Year of Gaming, a year's worth of fantastic coverage, positive energy, and hard work. Appreciated." Thank you so much. That goes to all of us. So yeah. I super appreciate that. Guys, it's time for Game of the Year and biggest surprise this year. Or maybe I should mention my biggest disappointment. I was going to say the whole thing that Dutch brought up with Activision and how the developers are treated. Not just there, we had also stuff happening at Ubisoft and other gaming companies. It's just saddening to see.
And now even Bungie.
Yeah,
coming up
that's
recently.
true.
True. And that has definitely been my biggest disappointment. But again, we want to talk about the fun stuff. Game of the Year, biggest surprise. We probably picked that to put that together. I think I heard from most of you guys already that you guys unite on the same Game of the Year choice. Matt, you want to go first?
Oh, we're doing Game of the Year? Surprise.
Yes, we're going in. Game of the Year.
Halo Infinite, baby.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to you a little bit about it before we went live, Archimedes. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's as a Halo fan, like, I think if you go familiar with a content in our show and everything, you know that I absolutely love Halo. It's my favorite gaming franchise of all time. And every time that a Halo game releases, it's like, you get this special feeling. It's like so you just can't wait. There's only certain franchises that do that, and that one's number one. And it's hard to deliver and meet upon expectations of a game like that that has such a history, And for them to come out and deliver something that I not only enjoyed, but coming away with having debates within myself of where does this land in my favorites of all time it's hard to do. And for everything from the music, the environments, the enemies, the chatter, the comedy, the combat, the gunplay, just there's so many things that are uniquely Halo, and it's all captured in its essence and brought to given new life in this game. And I just can't say enough about all the stuff that 343's been through over all the negativity and all of these things over the course of ever since they've been handed Halo, right? To finally get this 100%, with this game, and maybe some people don't say 100, maybe some people say 90, whatever.
Yeah.
For me, it's an accomplishment, and I know over the next 8, 9 years, 10 years, who knows how long, I'm gonna be playing the heck out of this game, and they absolutely nailed it. Love it.
Yeah, they definitely did. So was that also your biggest surprise, how well Halo turned out, or was there something else that surprised you this year?
No, my biggest surprise actually was my Game of the Year up until Halo Infinite came out.
It Takes Two.
It Takes Two.
Yeah.
It Takes Two was a special game. I kind of, sometimes these games come out, you kind of play for a little bit. You're like, okay, that was cool, I'm done. But the story and the gameplay, the creativity, the art, the design, the how well designed the co-op is. It is the best co-op game I've ever played. And me and my wife played that on stream and had just and you want to play that music while I'm talking? It's giving me the feels.
Sure can do that.
Yeah, it just gave me this like, okay, now it's distracting. I can't.
All right.
No, I'm just messing. All right, so yeah, like it just like captured like this like special is a special thing, an experience. Some games you finish, and you were like, wow, that left an impression, right? And that you're gonna always remember having played that game. And It Takes Two left that, and it's hard. And there's very few games that have ever done that, right? So that was a surprise coming from a game that looks like It Takes Two as
Yeah.
well. Just not going into expecting that, but
Yeah,
man,
I get
that story is incredible. The gameplay is incredible. Art is incredible. Well done, and they deserved their award that they won at the Game Awards for sure.
Awesome. Dutch, what was your game of the year and biggest surprise? Let us hear that.
I am completely split between two that have really. One, I didn't expect it, and the second, of course, both of these both of you have mentioned anyway. Halo is one of them. Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
So happy to see how this game's turned out. Really, really happy after the trials and tribulations they've had over the last year and more. Just getting this game to where it is now is just phenomenal. Really enjoyed the story and really loved the gameplay. It's second to none. The new mechanics are you couldn't think of a
grappling
Halo
hook.
without the new
Yeah.
mechanics now. Like that grappling hook is just a game changer. Like in terms of its versatility and its getting around the map and what you can do, the grabbing things and throwing them at people, or just getting around places, or accessing hard to reach places, grabbing things off grunts' backs and things. Just the game itself, just phenomenal, and massive round of applause to them for getting that. But the reason it's been so hard is because Psychonauts 2 was just phenomenal. I did not expect to love Psychonauts 2 as much as I did, and that's the story, the things it conveyed throughout from different ways, the way that they put human emotions into enemies was just crazy, but so well done. And how you defeated these enemies as well was like relating to how you would defeat these particular emotions in real life. The way that you use the brain things to go through bad thoughts and get rid of bad thoughts and things, and the gameplay, the characters, the art style, the world, again, the traversal, the puzzles. I just thoroughly loved that game. So my game of the year is actually joint between Halo and Psychonauts for two completely different reasons, because they're vastly different games. But I couldn't tear them apart because they have really stood out to me this year.
Yeah. It is tough to choose this year. I had actually the struggle in between three. So, yeah, let us hear from you.
Yeah, these guys both kind of took a lot of my talking points, which makes it easy for me. So, I would say that through up until Halo's release, Psychonauts 2 was my game of the year. I've been very fortunate this year to review a lot of games, like I said, and
I can tell.
yeah, very busy year, and in a good way, of course. And I got to play almost all of the game of the year candidates in full. And Psychonauts 2 is just special. It's a very special game. It's one of the greatest platformers of all time, in my opinion. It touches on mental health aspects in a very significant way, as Dutch was just commenting on. And it's just, it's a fantastic, fantastic game. I love it thoroughly. And it's actually one of my surprises, because that, if not for Microsoft's or Xbox's acquisition of Double Fine, that's not the game we get.
Yeah.
because that was a crowd-funded game that Tim Schafer himself was going to be very different until they got the extra time and money. So
I'm just the boss fights and everything that wasn't possible before.
Exactly. So I'm just very thankful for all of that, and Psychonauts 2, because it's cherished to me. I've 100%ed it. It's one of I just love that game. In terms of biggest surprise, I kind of preached on earlier, and I won't stay on it, is Biomutant for me. I expected to like that game. I didn't expect to love it. And it's just something about that game. I think we all have games where there's something about it. It either releases at a time that just kind of impacts you in a certain way. Something about a game just impacts you in a certain way. And Biomutant is that for me. And I just feel it's a fantastic, underappreciated game made by a small group of people that has a lot of heart. And I think heart and kind of genuineness in games is important to me. I think that's part of what makes It Takes Two special. So I feel that's an important trait. Game of the year for me is a no-brainer at this point. It is Halo Infinite. It passed Psychonauts 2 for me simply because both the multiplayer and campaign have hit so well. Halo is one of those rare franchises where both have to hit right to be considered successful. We saw with Halo, I don't have to go through it all, but 343 between Halo 4 and Halo 5 haven't hit both successfully, in my opinion, to the heights that is expected of Halo. And Halo Infinite does that. The campaign, I finished it twice now. I've nearly 100%ed it. It is brilliant. And I say in my review that unequivocally, in my opinion, this is the best Halo campaign. It is just brilliant. I love it through and through.
It is, absolutely.
And the multiplayer, to give you perspective, in the multiplayer alone, I have 7 days played already. I love this game. It's just polished to a T. And it needs, sure, the battle passes. I'll listen to you, the progression. I'd like to see more maps. There's things that need improvement. It's not perfect, but the core mechanics and what'll keep people playing for years is perfection. It's just brilliant. So Halo Infinite is my game of the year, and I couldn't be happier, man. What a great year for games. So many great things. Everything we've talked about today. It's such a great time to be a gamer. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. All fantastic choices. Everyone chose Halo Infinite. I didn't choose Halo Infinite. I had to battle it out.
Isn't it?
Can we get battle
it out against Psychonauts and Age of Empires? It's true. Those three games really stood out to me. Halo, I really loved it. I'm with you, Ains. It's definitely the best campaign 343 has made. If it is the best campaign ever, I can't really tell right now because it's too fresh that I've played it.
Sure.
I want to say at least 2-3 months after I finished the campaign, because then I can really tell how much did it stick with me. And Halo 3 really stuck with me. That's just so, but it is like you said, it is an awesome campaign, and the multiplayer. And I'm typically not the biggest multiplayer gamer anymore. Ever since I became a father, I stopped playing those competitive multiplayer games. They just take so much of your time, and I don't have the time to practice anymore. And when you're not good, it's not so much fun. And then that's why you typically don't play that many multiplayer games. But this time they really nailed it. I play so much multiplayer with the community, especially from Twitter, from here, of course, on YouTube, and everyone. It's just awesome and a lot of fun. However, Psychonauts 2 really hit it. Like you said, it is one of the best platformers ever made. The creativity, the level design, everything is just right with it. And I literally I couldn't put the controller down when I played it. And I was really, like, 2 days after I finished it, I couldn't play anything else. It was so good. And Age of Empires 4, like I said, it's probably my most played games. I don't know what they did with it, but they somehow modernized that classic Age 2 formula, with smaller things. And then they added this amazing campaign to it with these little documentaries that connect the your missions and that are really well done. And I just can't stop playing that game. Like I said, I have 160 hours already in it, and there's no end in sight. So I think I had to battle it out in between those, and if I have to choose one, I would give it to Psychonauts 2, simply because it hit every nail for me. It was just an awesome gaming experience. But I want to mention one other game that really was my biggest surprise this year, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy. I did not expect to have so much fun with that game. When they have shown that, I thought, okay, that is a cheap game that they just try to make that. It turns out it is really good. The story is absolutely awesome. Everyone who enjoys the movies will like this game. It is on the same quality level. The humor is there. The music is there. The gameplay is fun. The story is good. It really took me by surprise. And I just wanted to mention that in the conversation here as well.
I forgot, as you said, Psychonauts 2, and we all talked about it. One of my biggest disappointments was it not winning an award, by the way, at the Game Awards. That I think is a crime.
That is a crime. True. That would have been definitely deserved. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. With that, I want to bring it to an end. It has been an awesome show. I had a blast with you guys discussing 2021. Ains, you said it. It's been a fantastic year for games. I think we've seen that. Many great games, big and small. Many awesome announcements, many things to get excited for 2022. I think we all agree 2022 looks like it's going to be even better, which is really hard. But with that, I want to say again, thank you for taking the time here. I want to say a big thank you to everyone in the chat, and I want to give you guys obviously the chance to tell people where they can find you. Again, all the links are in the description, and maybe you will let people also know what is your plan for your channels, your website for 2022. Do you have any plans? And Ains, thanks for being here. Please go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Arch. This was a fantastic show. It's we've done nearly 3.5 hours, but it really kind of flew by because it's just fun chatting games with you guys. So great guests, great chat panel, everyone. Just a lot of fun. So thank you. So yeah, it's just for me, just seasongaming.com. Arch kind of gave us some very kind words at the start of the show, so appreciate that. You can find everything there. I won't go on and on. Obviously, my name is Ainsley, so I'm pretty easy to find because there's not many of us. So you can just look up Ains on Twitter, and you'll find me. Always talking everything gaming. So that's about it for 2022. We actually have some pretty big plans for Season Gaming in general to grow the outlet. As not just a channel, but a site. And I think you'll see more unique content from our contributors and articles and things of that nature. So just stay tuned to that. There's more to come, and I obviously won't say any more now. But thank you so much again, Arch. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you for being here. Well, Matt, where can people find you, and what do you have planned for 2022?
Yeah, and I'll second Ains. Thanks for having the show. Thanks for including me.
Thanks for joining.
Dutch, Ains, and also shout out to Boom, Double Barrel Gaming. Awesome to have him here as well. So if you aren't familiar with what we do, we have a YouTube channel. It's called Fun Speculation, and we kind of talk about gaming with multiple shows, and we also have another show where we talk about movies and TV and stuff, and that one's called Fun Pop. That's on Wednesday nights. I have another show called PM in the PM that's on Thursdays with one and only Pong Soul, where we get to deep dive on some topics. We had a great Splinter Cell discussion last night, so if you're a Splinter Cell fan, make sure to tune into that. But our first show that we kind of started with, and started by myself and started the channel with, is actually Xbox Ultimate Podcast, which has grown quite a bit this past year, and that is tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're up you know, stop on by. We're gonna have a great end of the year show tonight. Again, that's on Fun Speculation on YouTube. And on Saturdays we got FSP podcast. So we're just kind of just trying to do podcasting and content creation. It's been a lot of fun. This next year, I think we're gonna dive more into video creation, which I kind of started the channel with a little bit. But man, it's so much work, and I always look at guys like you,
Yes, it is.
Archimedes. That's like you're so talented, and you just put these videos out weekly, and it's like, man, I want to find the system in place to make that happen. So I'm working on that to be able to put out more videos in 2022 and help and just continue to grow our shows and grow the community and just have fun, man. This is all about passion of having fun and try and bring
Absolutely.
positivity to the gaming world and stuff. So I
Yeah.
absolutely love what you're doing. Love what all of these
Thank
guys are
you.
doing here as well. So let's have a great 22, everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thanks again for being here. And Dutch, let everyone know what you have planned for 2022 and where they can find you.
Certainly. I want to thirdly echo the same sentiments. Thank you. Thank you for having me, of course, and obviously being on the show with these awesome kind of friends and creators, both in Mav, Ains, and Boom. All three of you in different ways this year, including Boxenberger. You've been absolutely awesome to kind of support and help each other and grow. Mav, it's been absolutely awesome seeing your channel absolutely skyrocket this year.
Me too, man.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. Like I remember seeing again, I think we were both sub 1,000 before we went into this year, and you're closer to 2,000 now. Just insane level of growth, and that's
Awesome.
just the hard work
Yeah.
yourself and Caitlin and the whole panel have put into your work. So massive hats off to you as well, and obviously more success to you next year. Ains,
Appreciate
of
it.
course, you need no introduction, brother. The work you do for Season Gaming. And of course your new writers which you've got on board this year is phenomenal, and obviously second to none. If I was going to point anyone in the area for news, it would always be Season Gaming first.
Thank you, man.
Really awesome work, and obviously more to continue that in 2022. Archie, brother, you know for a fine fact you've got one of the highest quality production values in in video.
Thank you.
Your
Yeah.
work is second to none. I know obviously a lot of people echo that sentiment, and it is even now when I'm trying to do my videos, I have got no idea how I can possibly stand up to that. It is hard work. There's a lot of graft. I don't know how you manage it, but
Appreciate that. Thank
really
you.
great work. And obviously learning beside yourselves and having your support this year has been amazing. For ourselves, of course, we have the midweek mix-up, which is now finished for the year. That's every Wednesday. I am debating doing another smaller show as well next year. That's probably going to be only maybe 2 people. But just to round off the week, and if any kind of mop up any gaming news, etc. But that's still very much in its early stages. But tomorrow's the big one for us. The final live type of show this year, and it's a big 24-hour charity marathon for Macmillan Cancer Support, which of course supports everybody that lives with cancer. It's not so much to help beat it, but it's supporting those with financial constraints, be able to afford to live with cancer. That is one of the most difficult aspects because, of course, people don't understand the financial kind of aspects to having cancer in the first place. Just having to live with the disease itself is horrible enough, but then having to have the money worries on top of that is not what people need. And the support and the work that their staff put in all the time to help people live daily with cancer is phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
That is
But yes.
truly awesome that you do it, and I hope it goes well because it is an awesome thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just sorry, Arch, before you close out, just
Yeah,
one more
sure.
thing to echo these guys is is the growth. I think each of us puts obviously respective efforts into what we do with our channels and teams and people and everything that goes on, and it's work. I mean that word literally. And I think each of us have seen growth, really good growth this year in different ways, in the ways that we want for our respective places, and that's just fantastic to see. I think there's
Absolutely.
it's just it's I don't know, it just makes me happy to see that there's a lot of negativity out there, right? And there's a lot of channels and sites and everything else that just live and breed on negativity. And you guys know me well enough to know I despise that. And to see people like yourselves continue to grow and do better and gain audiences is really promising to me. So congrats to all of you on that, and hope to see it continue.
Thank you, and to you as well. Obviously, I think it's a great statement to close the show off, because the community, the support they have shown, not just to me, but also to you guys, is awesome. It's also the community of content creators helping each other out, helping to grow, helping to learn how to do stuff. That's just really awesome. And that's why this whole content creation thing has become a hobby that I enjoy just as much as I do gaming itself. And it is because of the community. And yeah, well said, Ains. And again, thank you to all of you. Guys, Dutch, good luck with the charity stream tomorrow again. That is hopefully a success. Yeah, and I want to thank everyone in chat, obviously, for not just being here, but also for the super chats, for making this an awesome show. And most importantly, thank you for being just this awesome community. You guys are the reason why we all do the content that we do. It's just because we have a fantastic community here, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. And with that, I want to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, or just a few awesome days. By the way, there will be content on my channel coming through the years. I actually prepared a couple of topics that I'd like to cover in the next 3 to 4 weeks, where we don't expect any major news. So definitely make sure, if you haven't already, to hit the little bell to be notified once that content goes up. But for now, I want to wrap things up. Thanks again for everything today and throughout the entire year, all the support. Truly appreciate it. Have some awesome family and relaxing days. Happy New Year, and I see you guys soon. And I finish everything with you guys. Don't forget to game on.
Yeah.